Chapter 467. Guardiola fiercely swung his fists in the air. It is said that the new generation trio consists of Haaland, Mbappe, and Chen Chen. Now that I have two, how are you going to compete with me? Thinking of this, Guardiola became even more excited and lost in thought. The weather was about to turn cooler. It was time for the football world to change. An exaggerated yet extremely plausible thought arose in the Spaniard's mind. What if they aimed for 8 titles in 2 years and successfully defended their titles in all competitions? In contrast to Guardiola's growing excitement, Klopp on the other side wore a face full of worry. Is it still not possible? Klopp truly wanted to strangle Liverpool scouts right now. How could such a monster like Haaland have been discovered by Manchester City first? Are you all just eating for nothing? After grinding his teeth, Klopp still needed to think carefully about how to play this match. After all, a championship is still a championship. It cannot be easily relinquished. At that very moment, as Klopp stood with his hands in his pockets deep in thought, the big screen, replaying the goal, shifted to a shot of Chen Chen. Chen Chen, who was applauding Haaland, was now sitting down. Chapter 468. The match quickly resumed. Guardiola began to signal the team to push forward a bit. It seemed he was very dissatisfied with the draw. However, they didn't have many opportunities because Liverpool was now in a defensive retreat. And Manchester City had possession, but no goal-scoring chances. This also highlighted Chen Chen's abilities. After all, he was the man who had led the team to defeat Liverpool multiple times. No matter what formation you set up, just score goals. Now, Manchester City, without Chen Chen starting, encountered some trouble. They couldn't break the deadlock. For Guardiola's Manchester City, this match was bound to be the most troublesome one they had faced in the past 6 months. The difficulty was certainly not the highest, but there was no doubt it was the most troublesome. All of this was because the Blue Moon was momentarily unfamiliar with the tactical arrangement without Chen Chen on the field. Fortunately, today Chen Chen was only on the bench. If he were to transfer in the future, Manchester City would likely fall into chaos and trouble, and they might not be able to score at all. This was also a happy trouble for Manchester City fans recently. Chapter 469. In the Me studio, Jurgen started with a question mark. We can see that as soon as the second half started, Manchester City made corresponding personnel adjustments. De Bruyne went off, and now the captain's armband he was wearing was given to Chen Chen. Oh, ha ha ha, I see it. The classic Zhang-style comedy. Jurgen continued to comment. So this match would be Chen Chen's 3rd time wearing the captain's armband since last season. This season, Guardiola has moved Chen Chen's captaincy ranking to 2nd place. I believe we will see Chen Chen wearing the captain's armband multiple times this season. Along with Chen Chen, there were also Rafenby and Alvarez, who warmed up with him during the recent halftime. It seems that Guardiola had long determined the substitution arrangement. Yes, let's see, little spider Alvarez replaced Grealish, and Rafenby replaced Silva. So, is Manchester City switching to a 4-2-3-1 formation, as both sides took their positions and the referee was about to blow the whistle? Jurgen finally understood. Chapter 470. As the second half began, Manchester City intensified their attacking wave, and the effect of Chen Chen coming off the bench was immediate. On the sidelines, Haaland, after scoring, was very happy. The Norwegian forward sat down directly on the ground and performed his classic prayer celebration. This goal, along with the previous one in the first half, was extremely important for Haaland. It is worth noting that Manchester City is currently the club with the highest attention in football, and every move of its players is magnified by opponents and the media. Although Haaland had scored in a few preseason matches and performed well compared to the little spider Alvarez and Palmeiras football genius Jesus, who scored in every official match since joining Manchester City, the pressure on Haaland was indeed enormous. Fortunately, all of this was resolved with these 2 goals. After all, aside from Main's absence, Liverpool had put out their strongest lineup. Against such a Liverpool side, Haaland scored 2 goals, strongly showcasing his prowess. Could this not prove Haaland's strength? Chapter 471. Wearing the captain's armband, Chen Chen stepped up to take this free kick. Although this was just a Community Shield match of little significance, at most a mere appetizer before the season starts, once Chen Chen put on the captain's armband, he felt an endless sense of responsibility and immense pressure. Not to mention that he was the team's first-choice free-kick taker, but in this critical moment, a moment that could potentially widen the score gap, he, as the captain, should step up. Chen Chen stood alone in front of the ball. The Liverpool players quickly arranged a wall. Nunez, who was originally prepared to be a counter-attacking point, also returned. Liverpool took this free kick very seriously. To equalize, or even take the lead, Liverpool had to withstand this wave of attacks. Speaking of which, it had been a long time since Chen Chen scored directly from a set piece, but with his name and reputation, who would dare to bet against him? Who? At Wembley, the originally noisy cheers and cries, including any wild whistle sounds, all ceased. Everyone involuntarily held their breath and looked at the man on the pitch who was about to unleash a powerful shot. Chapter 472, Beep Beep Beep. The match ended without any surprises. As the referee's final whistle sounded, the match concluded with Manchester City once again defeating Liverpool with a score of 4-1. In the center of the field, Salah stood there with his hands on his hips, feeling helpless. At this moment, it seemed that there was no light in the Pharaoh's eyes. At this moment, he recalled the first encounter with Manchester City last season, which was also filled with the same despair and helplessness. Salah was somewhat better off, while other Liverpool players had either sat on the ground or collapsed. This fierce confrontation had exhausted too much of their energy. Still, the saying goes, the joys and sorrows of people do not communicate. On the other side, Manchester City's players were cheering with joy. The fans in the stadium were shouting and cheering loudly. After a brief celebration, Chen Chen took the initiative to walk over and hug each Liverpool player. After all, without Liverpool, there wouldn't be so many wonderful classic matches. The last player he hugged was Salah. Looking at the dejected Salah, Chen Chen comforted him. Cheer up, Mohammed. I believe that next time you will win. Chapter 473. Chen Chen's schedule has been busy in recent days. First, he will participate in a Dior event, followed by a promotional event for Puma's new season shoes. During this process, Chen Chen will wear his new boots, which feature the CC7 logo. After the new shoes were released, someone quickly pointed out, hey, this CC7, isn't it a copy of Ronaldo's CR7? In response, Puma stated that there is no trademark indication, so where is the plagiarism? And even if it's CC7, whether it's made into POR7, the English abbreviation for Portugal, or ARG7, the English abbreviation for Argentina, no one could say anything. Of course, people may ask, but it's unlikely anyone would foolishly inquire about why their SACC7 with no legal support. In fact, Chen Chen didn't want to use CC7 either, as it is indeed too close to Ronaldo's shoe logo and could be seen as trying to ride on his coattails. So Puma suggested using the future logo he had used before and adding his name C, creating CF7. Chen Chen finally waved his hand, saying, forget it, let us just stick with CC7. Chapter 474. Of course, in the end, Rice chose to stay with West Ham United. As for joining Arsenal, that will have to wait until next summer window. Interestingly, the first match of the new season for Manchester City is an away game against West Ham United. The battle between two players, Chen Chen and Rice, who caught Real Madrid's eye, is sure to be very attractive, resulting in tickets selling out immediately. Even scalpers quickly sold out. Indeed, there are many rich people in London. Speaking of the wealthy in London, we must mention Fulham's recent actions. The Farmers Fulham were the champions of the championship in the 21-22 season, and they were promoted alongside Bournemouth. Another promoted team is Nottingham Forest, which emerged from the playoff with a $100 million prize. Let's talk about Fulham. The area where the Farmers are located is Fulham, which is known for being a wealthy area not just in London, but throughout England. Therefore, after returning to the Premier League, Fulham Club was eager to launch a renovation plan, preparing to spend $100 million to create a riverside stand, targeting those wealthy individuals. Chapter 475. Dear viewers in front of the TV, after a summer of waiting, the 2022-23 season of the English Premier League has officially kicked off. Yesterday, we witnessed the excellent performances of the other 18 teams, and today, let us move to London Stadium to enjoy the match between West Ham United and Manchester City. Before the match started, our commentator Jurgen began discussing advertisements. He then continued to bring the topic back to the match itself. In this transfer window, fans in front of their TVs and in the live broadcast room have surely noticed that both teams have made decent signings. West Ham United has acquired several strong reinforcements, such as Paqueta from Lyon, Scamacca from Sassuolo, Agurd from Rennes, Cornet from Burnley, and Emerson from Chelsea. Additionally, Krau from Paris and Downs from Swansea are also close to signing with the Hammers, and it is believed that both will arrive in London before the end of the month. Therefore, it can be said that West Ham United has high ambitions. Their goal is certainly not just to survive in the new season, but to aim for the Europa Conference League, Europa League, or even the Champions League. Chapter 476. Of course, compared to Chen Chen, Haaland's 1.5 billion is still quite a casual matter. Transfermarkt has not updated Chen Chen's market value. He remains at the 2.3 billion euros he reached after the Champions League ended. The reason Transfermarkt has not updated Chen Chen's market value is primarily because the reference value of the UEFA Nations League and a few preseason matches is not high, as they are merely friendlies and commercial matches. Another reason is that Transfermarkt explicitly states that if players' market values were to rise rapidly, like Neymar's 2 billion transfer to Paris, soon there would be countless players worth over 100 million or even 200 million in the football world. Of course, this does not mean that Chen Chen's value is inflated. His market value is indeed the highest without dispute. However, whether it's 3 billion, 2 billion, or even 1 billion, it no longer holds much significance, as no one can afford Chen Chen, nor does anyone know what his true abilities are. It's like how after the emergence of China's sixth-generation fighter jet, everyone knows that it is more powerful than the fifth generation. But where is the power? How strong is it? No one knows. Chapter 477. After completing the first round of matches, the other 19 Premier League teams received a short 3-day rest. But Manchester City had no rest time. The Blue Moon Army was heading to Helsinki, Finland, to face last season's Europa League champions, Frankfurt, in a showdown of real men. This is the UEFA Super Cup. Frankfurt's performance in the Bundesliga was not outstanding. Throughout the 34 rounds of the league, they only earned 50 points, securing just a qualification for the Europa Conference League. However, their performance in European competitions was indeed remarkable. They first defeated Real Betis and then eliminated Barcelona. The embarrassment that Laporta mentioned happened during the last season's match between Frankfurt and Barcelona when Frankfurt's fans flooded into Camp Nou, turning the home ground of the Barcelona fans into their own. Later, Frankfurt eliminated Glasgow Rangers in the final through penalties, winning their second European competition title since the club's establishment. Ironically, the last time Frankfurt won a European title, which was the Europa League, West Germany and East Germany had not yet merged. On August 8th, Manchester City's chartered plane landed at Helsinki International Airport. Chapter 478. Beep. Michael Oliver, who officiated the match between Manchester City and West Ham United a few days ago, blew the whistle for today's match. Honestly, when it was confirmed that Oliver was officiating, Chen Chen was quite surprised. After all, Oliver is English and Manchester City is a Premier League club. Didn't UEFA worry about him favoring Manchester City? Later, Chen Chen learned that the originally scheduled French referee, Letexier, had a car accident and couldn't make it, while another French referee, Thiriot, was busy officiating in League One and couldn't come either. As for the Polish referee Marciniak and several others, their current officiating level is indeed not as high as Oliver's. After all, Oliver is just blind, not lacking in skill. In the end, considering that any decision made by Oliver will be scrutinized under the public eye, UEFA can rest assured. In fact, Frankfurt fans have raised objections on this point. Why must you use Premier League referees? Can't we use our Bundesliga referees? We can achieve complete fairness too. The thoughts of the Frankfurt fans are not wrong. UEFA could indeed find someone within the Bundesliga. However, the level of Bundesliga referees is indeed a bit hard to praise. Chapter 479. As Mahrez slid on his knees, celebrating towards the corner flag, countless Manchester City fans in the stands also cheered loudly, fully celebrating this goal. Many say that Manchester City fans are the more reserved type. They don't really enjoy singing and dancing. However, in fact, these impressions are very one-sided because Manchester City fans are not the type to be easily pacified. The shaking of Helsinki Stadium is enough to prove everything. A beautiful over-the-top pass to the back post. A stunning near-post overhead shot. Manchester City has once again opened the door to Frankfurt with 2 overhead balls. The goal was scored by Mahrez, but the beginning of all this cannot be separated from that man. The perfect lob found Mahrez near the far post, who replicated the move with another overhead ball. In the end, goalkeeper Trapp couldn't react in time. Wow. Mahrez scores. Chen Chen earns a goal and an assist. And the monsters on Manchester City's front line continue to shine on the UEFA Super Cup stage. Over by the corner flag, Mahrez, who had long finished sliding on his knees in celebration, gave Chen Chen a hearty hug. Chapter 480. Beep. The second half continues. Chen Chen and De Bruyne did not leave the field. They are still galloping on the pitch. However, just a moment ago in the locker room, Guardiola also mentioned that around the 60-minute mark, both of them must come off, regardless of whether the team scores or not. After all, Liverpool had a big setback in the first round, and Manchester City needs to take advantage of this opportunity to establish a certain points advantage from the start of the league. Additionally, isn't the World Cup at the end of the year? As a team with many national team players, more than half of Manchester City's players will report to their respective national teams. Then, as everyone knows, FIFA matches are toxic. Countless returns to league matches have proven that players' performances drop significantly after the tiring travels back to their clubs. This is what everyone refers to as the FIFA virus. However, this is not the most painful and suffocating part. If a few key players get injured, that would be the most distressing. Therefore, this is also why Guardiola is preparing so early. After all, no one knows whether the team will suddenly collapse after the World Cup, right after the winter transfer window. Chapter 481. After getting nods of approval from Guardiola and Chen Chen, the press officer began to maintain order in the conference. All right, the press conference will start soon. Please remember, only the named reporters can ask a question once. Others should not interrupt during the questioning time. Once the press officer spoke, the chattering crowd immediately quieted down. So first, this lady who raised her hand, you go ahead. The press officer called on a lady with big waves. As for whether she's attractive, that is hard to say. Chen Chen silently gave a thumbs up to the press officer in his heart. After 90 minutes of fatigue, it's good to see something exciting to relieve the stress. Well, first of all, congratulations to Mr. Jose for leading the team to win another championship trophy. Upon hearing the beautiful reporter mention his name, Guardiola picked up the microphone, ready to answer questions. But unexpectedly, the beautiful reporter turned the topic. So here, I want to ask Chen Chen, after defeating Liverpool and Frankfurt in such a short time, winning the Community Shield and UEFA Super Cup trophies, does this mean that Manchester City's dominance is still at its peak? Will this season's Premier League still belong to Manchester City? Chapter 482. There weren't many questions asked at the post-match press conference, and Chen Chen quickly left with Guardiola. However, while he could leave, the questions and answers couldn't. Gradually, Chen Chen's responses during the press conference were shared by reporters online, sparking discussions among fans and viewers. Many people said Chen Chen was simply arrogant. Not to mention that there has never been a team in football history that won 4 consecutive championships. Just the fact that other teams have strengthened. How could Manchester City possibly withstand it? Using the analogy of the 6 major sects attacking the bright summit, we'll take turns to bombard you and engage in a war of attrition. Can Manchester City withstand it for a moment, let alone an entire season? Chen Chen's statements caused a huge uproar online. But surprisingly, while everyone was saying Manchester City couldn't win against all teams, no one refuted Chen Chen's remarks. Because in terms of strength, Chen Chen is indeed the only player who can boldly say, I want to take on 10. Why? Because this is based on his own strength and performance. No one can dispute that. It's worth noting that what Chen Chen said at the press conference was not baseless. He had his own considerations. Chapter 483. In response, netizens began their discussions. The match between Manchester City and Bournemouth had no points worth discussing. Why? Because, do we even need to watch Manchester City's matches? Waking up to another big victory. Last year, it was Arsenal that stumbled. This year, it's Manchester United's turn. Right? Good. The red teams are indeed cursed. So will it be Liverpool's turn next year? It could also be the Hammers and Nottingham. After all, they also have a lot of red elements in their teams. Many people are not optimistic about Manchester United, but this is a great time to buy low. $100. I've already bet on Manchester United to win the league. Very good. You just lost $100. Manchester City should handle Bournemouth at home easily. It's just a matter of a few goal differences. Why are you so pessimistic about Bournemouth? What if they're the little cherry that eats people? No way. Because Manchester City's starting lineup has been released, still all first-team players. Just as the netizens were engrossed in their discussions, the battle at the Etihad Stadium was about to break out. Manchester City's squad and starting lineup had already been confirmed after yesterday's training. Chapter 484. So without further ado, let us watch the match. On the field, the players from both sides took their positions in order. The broadcast camera first focused on the players on the field, then moved to the stands. This is Fernandinho, the former captain of the Blue Moon who left Manchester City as a free agent this summer. Next to him is Manchester City legend, the club's all-time top scorer Aguero. In the stands, after noticing his face was displayed on the big screen, Aguero raised his hand and greeted with a chuckle. The old captain Fernandinho gave a subtle nod, showing a slight acknowledgement. Upon seeing this, sharper cheers and shouts erupted from the Etihad Stadium. Amidst the cheers and joy, a sense of melancholy and helplessness surged in the hearts of the fans. Just when everyone thought Agüero would continue to create his own records in Barcelona, the Argentine unexpectedly retired due to health reasons. The favorite of Manchester City fans left the Barcelona he cherished so much. As for Fernandinho, the fans were even more reluctant to let him go. Last season, the Brazilian midfielder performed reasonably well. To be honest, Manchester City could have offered him a one-year contract. However, looking ahead, if Manchester City didn't renew the contract of their 10-year veteran De Bruyne, how could they possibly renew Fernandinho's? Chapter 485. The match quickly resumed. The Blue Moon, having scored first at home, continued to apply pressure to suppress Bournemouth. In the 12th minute, Chen Chen retreated to the defensive midfield position to receive the ball. With a clever nutmeg move, Chen Chen got past Tavernier, who was trying to mark him. He then made a clean and swift forward pass. Bang! The through ball was very smooth and sudden, leaving the Bournemouth defenders no time to react. Or rather, they reacted too slowly. After receiving the ball, Haaland turned and shot, not giving his opponents any time to block the shot. Unfortunately, Travers managed to react. The Irish goalkeeper showcased an extreme diving save to prove himself. After saving Haaland's sure goal, Travers jumped up from the ground and let out a roar. I, Travers, am not a coward. In the 15th minute, on the left side of the pitch, Grealish was running inwards, leaving the left flank for Chen Chen. Seeing Chen Chen with the ball, Adam Smith and Lewis Cook rushed over to press him. Faced with the double team, Chen Chen did not show much urgency on his face, as he had already thought of a way to break the deadlock. Chapter 486. On the sidelines, Bournemouth's head coach, the 42-year-old Englishman Scott Parker, looked dazed. He knew it would be hard for his team to win today's match. From a certain perspective, losing by a smaller margin was the most realistic goal for Bournemouth. However, losing 2 goals right from the start, Parker was genuinely upset, especially since the second was an own goal. Parker felt a bit melancholic. You say we're just a relegation team. Why the hell are we facing the big boss in just the second match of the league? Losing these 3 points was laughable. Of course, Bournemouth couldn't just sit back and wait. The season had just started, and they still had a fight. Based on this, Parker moved Christie to the center, with Stace and Tavernier on the wings, and Moore playing as the lone striker. The Cherries were switching to a 4-2-3-1 formation. A desperate attempt. Unfortunately, this only invited a harsher beating. In the 23rd minute, Manchester City executed a beautiful ball possession strategy. After receiving the ball, Rodri looked for Chen Chen immediately. Chen Chen moved toward the center and then passed the ball to De Bruyne. The Belgian wanted to perform a wall pass with Chen Chen, but due to the numerous defenders around Chen Chen, De Bruyne gave up. Chapter 487. Heischer's idea was beautiful, but unfortunately, Bournemouth's nightmare did not end. Chen Chen and a few others in the penalty area did not rest as he had hoped. They remained on the pitch the entire time. In the 89th minute of the second half, Chen Chen scored his 3rd goal of the match, and with this goal, Manchester City achieved an epic 90 accomplishment. Just one more, and the score difference could reach the legendary double digits. Unfortunately, there was no more time left in the match, and the score ultimately remained at 90. The Manchester City fans in the stands were ecstatic, their faces flushed as if they had just undergone a vigorous workout. In contrast, on the other side of the away stands, there were hardly any fans left. In fact, when the halftime whistle blew and the score was 5-0, the Cherry fans had already left in droves. Unfortunately, some still held on a hope, believing their team could score a goal to salvage some pride. However, the final result was obviously disappointing, and Bournemouth fans were destined to be let down. Chen Chen, who staged the first hat-trick of the new season, took the match ball, while Haaland, who scored twice, and De Bruyne also took away the other match balls. Chapter 488. As the best-performing team in last season's Premier League and Champions League, Manchester City was undoubtedly the biggest winner. Besides the well-known Chen Chen, De Bruyne, and Rodri, others like Mahrez, Stones, Ruben Dias, and Ederson were also selected. Sterling's name was also on the list, but since he is no longer a Manchester City player, UEFA and various media did not include him in Manchester City's roster. Seeing that nearly half of the 30-player shortlist was made up of Manchester City players, fans and viewers were extremely envious. The quadruple champions from last season, along with the Community Shield and UEFA Super Cup at the beginning of the season. Wow, the achievement of 6 titles had been accomplished, If such a Manchester City did not have a large number of players selected for the shortlist, then UEFA's evaluation criteria would certainly be called into question. On August 18th, Chen Chen arrived in Nyon, Switzerland, the headquarters of UEFA. Previously, Chen Chen had attended a similar award ceremony, specifically the Golden Boy Award presentation held in Paris last year. Unfortunately, at that time, he had just begun to emerge, and his match statistics were not as impressive as those of other standout players throughout the year. So he did not make it into the top 5 of the Golden Boy rankings. Chapter 489. The award ceremony soon officially began. Today's UEFA award ceremony was hosted by British actor and presenter Stephen Fry, a 64-year-old man. Of course, despite his age, he was quite capable otherwise. He wouldn't have been entrusted with such an important role by UEFA. The first awards to be presented today were the Best Fan Award and the Fair Play Award. The former was awarded to all Ukrainian fans for reasons that are well understood. Due to the conflict between the two factions, the entire Europe is now supporting the second faction, and Chelsea has consequently been taken over by Clear Lake Capital. Some journalists had asked Chen Chen about this topic, regarding the conflict between the two factions. He didn't simply say he supports Big Mao or Second Mao, but rather unified and comprehensively supports the struggle of all humanity against violence and oppression. You ask me who I support? I can only say I support the liberation of all humanity. The Fair Play Award was then presented to the Danish national team. The reason is well known, as everyone is aware of the incident where Eriksen suddenly collapsed on the field, and the Danish national team handled the situation perfectly. After these two awards were given, it was time for the main topic of today. Chapter 490. After Chen Chen, the fifth player to appear was De Bruyne. The Belgian midfielder had already received the Lifetime Achievement Award, and he wasn't particularly interested in the Best Player Award. He was also the most relaxed among the players about to take the stage. Ederson had the same mindset. Messi and Ronaldo were a bit more anxious. As if they couldn't outdo the young Chen Chen, they would truly become stepping stones. At the host's invitation, 5 people, including Chen Chen, walked onto the award stage together. Stephen Fry began to interview them one by one. Their responses were similar, thanking the heavens, the earth, their parents, and you in front of the screen. After a brief chat and some jokes, amidst warm applause, UEFA President Ceferin walked up with the ceremony hostess. It was obvious to the keen-eyed that the final grand prize was about to be announced. The broadcast camera started to rotate among the 5 players. As mentioned before, De Bruyne was very relaxed, even taking the time to greet his good friends in the audience. Ederson was busy adjusting his clothes. His suit seemed a bit small, feeling a bit uncomfortable. Chapter 491. Regarding Chen Chen winning the award, it's still the same statement. There was no suspense. After all, the honors Manchester City gained last season were truly explosive, especially on the Champions League stage where they only lost to PSG, winning every other match along the way. And the value of that is needless to say. But for Messi and Ronaldo, they were very angry about being seen as a joke by UEFA. As a result, both Messi and Ronaldo simply shook hands with Ceferin and quickly left the stage. Ceferin didn't pay much attention to them either, as their era had already passed. So why were the two who are on the decline brought in to support the event? The reason is simple. For the future of European football, UEFA is definitely going to build momentum for the new king. So, I ask you or you ask me, what could be more controversial than ascending the throne on the bodies of the old kings? Of course, this isn't just UEFA's approach. FIFA also included Messi, who is far away in MLS, and Ronaldo, who is in the Saudi League, in the Ballon d'Or rankings. When it comes to leveraging traffic, FIFA plays the game better. With Chen Chen bringing home the Best Player Award, this evening's awards ceremony can be said to have completely come to a close. Chapter 492. The entire draw ceremony was quite a spectacle. Some laughed while others cried. For example, when Sevilla's coach Lopetegui and Copenhagen's coach Solbakkens saw they drew Manchester City, they could only awkwardly smile. There's no way to compete. They can't escape in a two-legged match, so apart from crying, they could only smile bitterly. Fortunately, playing against Manchester City will definitely peak ticket and broadcasting revenues, which can slightly comfort the two unfortunate teams. Finally, the new season's Champions League draw ceremony held in Nyon, Switzerland, has concluded, and the players of the Blue Moon can quickly fly back to Manchester. Interestingly, just as they left, many planes landed here. Following the Champions League draw ceremony was the draw for the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, with teams participating in the second and third-tier European leagues on those planes. For instance, Arsenal, who dropped from 4th place to 5th in the Premier League last season, and Manchester United, who struggled to grab 6th place. Of course, all of this has nothing to do with Manchester City now. What they should focus on is preparing for the match against Newcastle. Chapter 493. Manchester City's match is starting alongside Brighton and Chelsea at 3:30 p.m. local time, which translates to 11:30 p.m. in China. For Chinese fans, this is a relatively decent match time. It's no wonder that more and more people in Asia are paying attention to the Premier League, thus making the cake bigger. Compared to the Serie A league that starts at 2:45 a.m. in the last round, this truly feels like a world apart. Speaking of which, it's no longer big news when Manchester City wins a match. When do the Blue Moon lose or finish with a draw? That would be the real explosion to all the viewers in front of the TV and live stream. Welcome to continue waiting in our studio on Sunday night at 11:30 p.m. to watch the match between Newcastle United and Manchester City. I am today as commentator, Chen Chen, and beside me is Director Zhang Lu. Come on, Director Zhang, say hello to everyone. Upon hearing this, Zhang Lu faced the camera in the studio and waved his hand. Hello, everyone. I am Zhang Lu. All right, Chen Chen continued. We can see that both teams' players have appeared in the player tunnel, and now the referee Jurgen is doing the final checks. Chapter 494. After witnessing Chen Chen's ferocity, Newcastle wisely set up a bus. Regardless of winning or losing, it's South definitely right to park the bus first. As for attacking, it depends on whether there are good counter-attack opportunities. In the 9th minute of the match, Chen Chen received a back pass from Holland and took a shot from the top of the opponent's penalty area. A powerful shot. Fortunately, the goalkeeper Pope, after Chen Chen's 2 earlier long-range shots, was much more alert and managed to leap up to deflect the ball over the crossbar. Otherwise, with that high shot, Pope would most likely have conceded a goal. Of course, being pressed like this isn't sustainable. After all, you can block it once or twice. But can you block it 10 or 8 times? In the 13th minute, Manchester City had a corner kick opportunity. Chen Chen didn't go to the corner flag to take the kick, as the Blue Moon opted for a quick short pass tactic. Walker took a short pass, and Rodri sent the ball towards the top of the penalty area. Seeing this, Newcastle's coach, 45-year-old Eddie Howe, smiled and shook his head. Another shot from the top of the penalty area? Is there no more innovative action? Chapter 495. Phew. Eddie Howe let out a long breath. Fortunately, he only thought about it in his heart, didn't say it out loud, nor showed it in any tactical changes on the field. Otherwise, the fans and media will laugh to death. Looking at Chen Chen, who stood with his hands on his hips near the center circle, his expression serious and seemingly watching intently, Eddie Howe's heart suddenly sank. Oh no. After a brief high-five and hug with his teammates, this guy had no mood for extra celebration. He wouldn't really want to chase Messi's record, would he? Eddie Howe's mood immediately plummeted. Damn it. Why did it have to be now when facing Manchester City? As the head coach of Newcastle, Eddie Howe was starting to regret it. If he had known today's situation would be so uncomfortable and suffocating, he should have told a lie and asked the FA to adjust the match schedule. Anyway, who wants to play against Manchester City? Newcastle absolutely does not want to. On the substitutes bench, Eddie Howe, whose mood had suddenly worsened, ran his fingers through his hair. The script about making a big impact in the new season after bringing in new signings, in his opinion, would be better showcased against Manchester United. Chapter 496. A scene that shocked everyone happened. Bang! Chen Chen successfully connected with a header. The ball quickly changed direction and flew towards Pope's forehead. The Three Lions goalkeeper hurriedly reached out to save, but it was purely futile. Because the ball was simply too fast. Even if Pope reacted, it wouldn't help. The ball had already crossed the goal line. After scoring, Chen Chen didn't look at anyone. He simply spread his arms and ran wildly towards the corner flag, followed by a somersault celebration. St. James Park erupted with cheers from the Manchester City fans, which had completely turned into a sea of celebration for the Blue Moon Army. Over by the corner flag, after completing the somersault, Chen Chen quickly turned to look at Holland, then rushed towards him, and the two embraced tightly. To be honest, Chen Chen was very grateful to Holland. Without him, he wouldn't have scored that header. A perfect header connection. Chen Chen scored his second goal of the match. His total goal count reached 90. He was just one goal away from the miraculous 91 goals set by the Argentine. With plenty of time left in the match, Chen Chen had a great chance to break that record. Chapter 497. The sound of the live DJ echoed through St. James Park. Score: Manchester City number 7, Chen Chen. The traveling Manchester City fans immediately joined in shouting, Chen Chen, Chen Chen. The cheers were deafening, almost lifting St. James Park off the ground. Notably, there were also applause and cheers from some Newcastle fans. It was evident that many Magpies fans were won over by Chen Chen's skills. Of course, this was normal. Who wouldn't be impressed by such a beautiful hat trick? And with the third goal in the 3-0 situation, it was impossible for Newcastle to turn the game around. The biggest point of interest in this match was simply what the final score would be and whether Chen Chen could set a new record for himself. A very beautiful counterattack goal, which was a fast-breaking style that Manchester City, accustomed to possession play, found hard to execute. Chen Chen's attacking aggression enriched the tactical approach of the Blue Moon side, and the new season's Manchester City would be even more aggressive than last season. The commentary was currently analyzing the situation. Meanwhile, the match had restarted again on the field. Chapter 498, bang. Stones launch across. This time, before Chen Chen could jump, Botman got there first and headed the ball away. Newcastle's speedy left winger, the Frenchman Saint-Maximin, hurried over to position himself. But before he could establish any position, Rodri came rushing in and pushed him away. Then, the incoming Alvarez got hold of the ball. To be honest, it was a bit unethical for Guardiola to bring on Little Spider. After all, Little Spider was an Argentine player, and, emotionally, he shouldn't help Chen Chen break the record set by his national team elder brother Messi. So, before coming on as a substitute, Little Spider secretly hoped Guardiola wouldn't think of him. He could come on in other matches, but not this one. However, once he actually stepped onto the pitch, Little Spider calmed down. He realized that since joining Manchester City for more than half a season, Chen Chen had brought home so many trophies. Giving back a record was no big deal. Besides, it's just fame. Who needs it? Just get it done. Bang. On the field, Alvarez quickly passed the ball to the left flank. The ball reached the advancing Cancelo's feet. Chapter 499, Phew. Chen Chen stood at the penalty spot. Originally, this penalty should have been taken by Holland, but today Chen Chen was aiming to break the record, so the Norwegian naturally wanted to help him. If it were before, Guardiola would have cursed. The designated penalty taker isn't taking the penalty? Then get off the pitch. But now, since it was Chen Chen, it was acceptable. Of course, as the team's top scorer and the new record holder who surpassed Messi, it would be hard to convince everyone if Chen Chen didn't take it. Beep. The whistle blew. Chen Chen took a few small steps forward and then struck the ball fiercely. Pope hurriedly dove in the direction he had planned. Because he had trained with Chen Chen at St. George's Park for a long time, Pope confidently dove to his right. This was Chen Chen's favorite angle. Unfortunately, he still underestimated Chen Chen's big heart. Chen Chen shot straight down the middle. In the Sky Sports studio, temporary commentator Zidane exclaimed, "He shot. Goal. 5 goals in the bag." Chen Chen scored his 5th goal of the match. Chapter 500. It is important to note that Manchester City's schedule for the entire month of August only has 2 matches left. One is a friendly against Barcelona, and the other is a match against Crystal Palace. In total, Manchester City will play 7 matches in August. This is quite challenging for the Blue Moon Army, who just returned from vacation. Fortunately, Manchester City held up well, earning 2 championships and a red record. By September, the number of matches for Manchester City will drop to 4. Besides having 2 national team matches taking up a considerable amount of time. The main reason is that with the World Cup approaching, UEFA has slightly postponed the Champions League matches. Additionally, the FA has specifically postponed the FA Cup matches to give players more rest time, which will benefit national team players in preparing for the World Cup at the end of the year. Of course, this comes at a cost. That is, in the second half of the season, which is the first half of next year, most teams, including Manchester City, will face a grueling schedule. Especially for a team like Manchester City that is competing on 4 fronts, the pressure is immense. So, in such a situation, are there any good ways to relieve pressure? Chapter 501. After the charity match against Barcelona, Chen Chen was once again asked about surpassing Messi to become the all-time top scorer in a single calendar year. Considering he was in Catalonia, Chen Chen modestly praised Barcelona and also complimented Lionel Messi before finally mentioning his record. After all, it's a shared success. If Chen Chen praises Barcelona, they will reciprocate. Of course, if possible, Chen Chen would prefer the admiration to come from a tender-hearted Spanish girl rather than the club itself. Unfortunately, that night, Manchester City flew directly back to Manchester, and Chen Chen didn't have the chance to go out with his good buddy Grealish for a romantic escapade. From the end of the match against Newcastle to the upcoming clash with Crystal Palace, only 4 days had passed. Coupled with the charity match in Catalonia, The fatigue level within the City squad was quite evident. On August 26th, at the pre-match press conference for the Manchester City versus Crystal Palace match, former Arsenal and AC Milan player, now Crystal Palace manager, Vieira attended along with his proud disciples Edouard and Jordan Ayew. Chapter 5:02. When the first half of the match ended, the score displayed on the big screen was 3-1, with Manchester City being the team with the 3. Vieira's pre-match bravado had turned into a joke among fans. Winning? Let us first see if they can equalize. Of course, as a head coach, Vieira must aim for victory. If he said something like losing less is winning, Crystal Palace might not even have the spirit to score a goal. Did you see how the stronger Newcastle got utterly defeated by Manchester City? For Crystal Palace to score a goal would already be quite impressive. Eventually, with a whistle from referee Graham, the final score was set at 3-1. It was a typical first-half score, and those fans who were hoping for a high-scoring game were likely to vent their frustrations at Manchester City. But who cares about the gamblers? Chen Chen came on in the 82nd minute of the match, which clearly indicated that he was just there to get some activity, treating the match as a warm-up. In early September, just a few days later, Manchester City was set for a 2-match away trip against Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa. Chen Chen and De Bruyne would surely be expected to contribute significantly. Chapter 5:03. Of course, now Chen Chen's salary will be a bit higher. If we were to look at 2023, Ronaldo would still have a higher salary. Why? Because the Portuguese player would be going to Saudi Arabia, where the money is plentiful. After watching an NFL game, Chen Chen quickly returned to Manchester. If you ask who is in Manchester, a bunch of business partners and advertisers are waiting. The busy midweek breaks soon passed, and on June 1st, Manchester City faced Nottingham Forest. In this match, City was playing away. Ake had fully recovered from his injury. But considering potential factors, the Dutchman did not start, with Guardiola stating he would bring him on at the right time. Ake's recovery surprised many, as it meant that Manchester City was back to full strength. The City squad was ready to compete on multiple fronts. It's worth mentioning that in the match against Nottingham Forest, Manchester City did not field a rotated or substitute lineup, but instead deployed their full-strength squad. This was not only because Nottingham Forest had a slightly better record of 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss compared to Crystal Palace, but also because City's key players needed to feel the pressure and couldn't afford to rotate against weaker teams. Chapter 5:04. It's worth noting that FIFA recently announced all the teams participating in the Qatar World Cup. Many national teams had already been confirmed early, such as England before the winter transfer window. The same goes for Asian teams. The reason FIFA made this announcement was primarily because the playoffs in North America and Asia had just concluded. Specific data needed timely updates, and FIFA simply added the names of all the teams that came through the playoffs. In mid-August, for teams from Asia, Oceania, and the Americas competed in playoffs. After neutral venue matches, the final participating teams were determined. They were Australia, which defeated the UAE, and Costa Rica, which beat New Zealand. The Kangaroos had a rough year, not directly qualifying and needing to play in the playoffs. Fortunately, starting next year, the World Cup will expand, so the Kangaroos won't have to worry about not qualifying. Interestingly, the teams benefiting from the expansion aren't those like Australia, which hovered near the qualification line, but rather teams like New Zealand. Chapter 5:05. In this match, Bernardo Silva was once again pushed to the right winger position, with Foden on the left. Mahrez and Grealish got another rest. The center forward was naturally Haaland. Actually, whether Grealish rests or not doesn't matter much. In the upcoming matches against Italy and Germany, he will likely be on the bench. In this situation, Grealish doesn't need to hold back in the league. In midfield, Grafwies, Gundogan, and new signing Phillips got their chances to play. Honestly, Phillips' agent regrets bringing him to Manchester City, as he hasn't had much playing time. So, what is the point of coming here, right? Phillips himself doesn't mind. Playing anywhere is still playing. Moreover, being able to play with Chen Chen and Stones can, in some ways, deepen their chemistry. If he wants more playing time in the future, well, he'll have to see whether to solidify his position or leave quickly in next summer's transfer window. Why summer and not winter? Well, having come this far, he might as well stay and grab a few trophies first. As for the defense, Guardiola arranged for all the main players to play. Chapter 5:06. It should be noted that recently Foden has found himself embroiled in a personal moral controversy. In the opening matches of the league, Foden hasn't had much playing time and has been sitting on the bench. Under these circumstances, Manchester City's youth team called him up. This is a normal procedure, Young players with little playing time often go to the youth team to play a few matches to maintain their form. However, Foden looks down on the level of the U23 league and the U23 coach. He believes that Manchester City's youth team, which can't even make it into the top 10 of the Premier League U23 league, shouldn't call him up. He wants to stay with the first team and wait for opportunities. Now, trouble arises. If he doesn't recognize the youth team and refuses to play for them, even the U23 coach's personal visit to discuss it doesn't help, then what is the point of keeping him? As a result, rumors began to circulate. Manchester City will listen to any offers for Foden. Of course, excluding Manchester United. Foden has always considered himself the Prince of Manchester City and believes he won't be sold. In fact, he is right. But there is a premise. This was true in the past. Now, with Chen Chen's arrival, Manchester City's management has realized that apart from Chen Chen, who is not for sale, everyone else is up for grabs. Chapter 507. While the Three Lions are thinking about how to counter Italy, Chen Chen has already flown to Qatar. The World Cup is coming at the end of the year, right? Qatar has teamed up with FIFA to prepare a promotional video. As the hottest player in Europe over the past year, Chen Chen naturally received the call. Of course, this isn't free. The Qatari authorities need to pay a certain fee. It's worth noting that to host the World Cup, the oil-rich Qatar has already spent $220 billion. Whether this amount can wrap around the earth a few times is anyone's guess. But what is known is that this money is already more than the total expenditure of the previous 21 World Cups combined. This isn't just about hosting a tournament. It's like throwing money into the Persian Gulf. Ahem, perhaps when people hear $220 billion, they just say wow and feel it's not much. But what if converted to Chinese currency? That's 16 trillion yuan. To put it in perspective, the GDP of Shanghai in 2022 was 45 trillion yuan, and Qatar has already spent 13 of Shanghai's annual GDP just to host the World Cup. So, the money they're spending on Chen Chen can only be considered a drop in the bucket. Chapter 508. After spending 3 days and 2 nights in Qatar, Chen Chen took a private jet to London. He is going to Wembley Stadium to watch the match between the Three Lions and the German national team. As for the summary of his trip to Qatar, one can only say that anyone can spend money if they have it. But when it comes to extravagance, Qatar is definitely a step ahead. They spend money with a bang. This time, with Chen Chen and Beckham signing contracts, the Qatari authorities didn't even blink. They just threw money around. Chen Chen hasn't even fulfilled the contract yet, and the Qatari side has already transferred the initial $8 million. One can only say, a qualified client in this regard time quickly reached September 17th. England, London. Since this is the last match for the Three Lions before heading to Qatar. Even though the English team had already secured a spot in the UEFA Nations League group stage and faced no risk of elimination, many fans still showed up for the match. The loss to Italy didn't dampen the fan spirits. Wembley was still packed with enthusiastic Three Lion supporters. Qatar World Cup preview. England is the favorite. Germany hopes to break the curse of not advancing from the group stage. Chapter 509. Chen Chen isn't sure if Southgate is anxious, but he himself is quite happy. Because there are still a few days of ample rest between the end of the international break and the return to league play. Chen Chen went to the F1 London Grand Prix with Grealish and Stones. At the racing event, Chen Chen also ran into Kane, who missed this international break, and Bellingham, who played against Italy. Goodness, half of the Three Lions starting lineup is here. The arrival of these 5 handsome men brought the atmosphere at the F1 event to a new high. After all, compared to the names of the racing drivers that many fans might not recognize, the members of the national football team are quite well known to the spectators. Chen Chen isn't very interested in racing. He mainly came to see Zhou Guanyu. In the Alfa Romeo team's paddock, it was Alfa Romeo at the time, later changed back to the Sauber name in 2024. Chen Chen met Zhou Guanyu and his partner Valtteri Bottas. Zhou Guanyu's skills are quite good, but the limitations of Sauber's overall technology, especially in tire changes, hold him back. Chapter 510. The first touch of the Belgian midfielder after coming on the pitch produced a great effect. His ground pass found Chen Chen, who was sprinting towards the opponent's baseline. Then, Chen Chen made a cross from the wing. The similarly first-touching Holland headed the ball into the net. Manchester City 3. Wolves 0. Pep Guardiola on the sidelines excitedly pumped his fists in the air. Of course, while he was excited, Guardiola didn't forget the team's predicament in the first half. It still hasn't fully recovered, and the Dutchman needs to be more cautious. Laporte cannot be the core of ball possession in the back line. He needs help from Ruben or Stones. Therefore, if everyone is fit and in good shape, Ruben and Stones should be the unshakable starters. The performances of Gundogan and B. Silva go without saying. To put it in a cinematic line, it's like giving you a chance and you don't make use of it. Blindly pushing forward and passing. Being overly eager in attack led to neglecting defensive responsibilities. I know you're eager and want to perform well, but it can't be played like this. Guardiola has already made a decision in his heart. If a team offers a reasonable price in the winter transfer window, then Gundogan and Silva can be sold. Chapter 511. 2 hours before the Manchester Derby kicks off, Manchester has completely turned into a paradise for football fans. Fans dressed in red or blue jerseys started heading towards the Etihad Stadium, and the cheers from both team supporters never stopped along the way. Manchester United started the season with 2 consecutive losses, but after adjusting, Ten Hag led the team to 4 consecutive victories. The Red Devils fans were momentarily shocked, especially after defeating Liverpool and Arsenal at home. 2 tough matches that left the Red Devils fans feeling exhilarated. They can't help but ask themselves, could it be that under the leadership of Dutch coach Ten Hag, the Red Devils are on the path to returning to their peak? In this case, not many people cared about Ronaldo being pressed onto the bench by Ten Hag in a sacrificial manner. After all, as long as Ten Hag could win the match, who cares how he manages the dressing room? Based on this, tickets for the highly anticipated match between the soaring Manchester City and the steadily improving Manchester United were sold out as soon as they went on sale. It truly became a case of hard-to-get tickets. Of course, this is reasonable. After all, on one side is the Red Devils Manchester United, eager for a 5th consecutive win after 4 straight victories, while on the other side is the rampaging Blue Moon Manchester City, which has been dominating like a bulldozer. If these tickets were easy to get, it would be a miracle. Chapter 512. Good evening to all the viewers in front of the TV and in the live broadcast room. I am today's commentator, Chen Chen. Next to me is our familiar face, Coach Zhang Lu. Zhang Lu, next to Chen Chen, quickly raised his hand and waved. Hello, everyone. I'm Zhang Lu. Well, Chen Chen took over the conversation, and what we are bringing you today is the first Manchester Derby of the season. Manchester City versus Manchester United. The match is being held at the Etihad Stadium, the home of Manchester City. Both teams have performed quite well in the new season. The home team, Manchester City, has achieved an unbeaten record of 40 matches across seasons, and in the new season, they have won 7 consecutive matches, earning 21 points. Manchester United started the new season with 2 consecutive defeats, but after some adjustments, under the leadership of Dutchman Ten Hag, the Red Devils have recently achieved 4 consecutive victories. Especially Rashford, the England forward, has been in the spotlight in matches against Liverpool and Arsenal, scoring 3 goals and helping the team secure crucial 6 points. It is also worth mentioning that today's match is the closest contest between the 2 teams in terms of strength in the past 2 years. We hope to see an exciting clash. Chapter 513. Malaysia found a good angle, causing Ederson to hesitate about whether to charge out or stay put. Just as Ederson was indecisive, Rashford calmly leaped for a header. The ball flew towards the far upper corner of the goal. Ederson immediately dove to his right. Swipe. Unfortunately, Ederson couldn't touch the ball because Rashford's header was just too tricky. The ball went in. At the Etihad Stadium, Manchester United took the lead. It is hard to believe that in the recent matches, Manchester City was always the team to score first. But today, Manchester United turned the tables. The homegrown Rashford helped Manchester United break the deadlock. They achieved a dream start at the Etihad Stadium. Ten Hag was still steaming. In the studio, Chen Chen shook his head while commenting on the match. Due to the saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and because Chen Chen is a loyal supporter of Chen Chen, he fully supported Manchester City in this match. Chapter 514. After scoring, Chen Chen did not rush to the corner flag to celebrate. He simply stood there, stretching out his hands, raising and lowering them repeatedly. He was signaling to fans to cheer louder. Of course, things went as Chen Chen wished. The cheers in the Etihad Stadium grew louder, and countless Manchester City fans began shouting Chen Chen's name. Chen, Chen, Chen. Chen Chen's arrogant behavior would surely provoke dissatisfaction among Manchester United fans, and the traveling Red Devil supporters responded to Chen Chen's actions with boos. Unfortunately, this was ineffective, because this is the Etihad. This is the home ground of the Blue Moon Army. If the boos from Manchester United fans could turn the tide here, then the Etihad might as well close its doors early. In Manchester United's penalty area, before Chen Chen could even slide a few times, his teammates had already rushed over, surrounding him in a circle of celebration. Everyone was very happy, but the happiest one was definitely Ederson, who had conceded a goal due to indecision. At the Manchester City goal, the Brazilian goalkeeper furiously waved his fists towards Chen Chen. Chapter 5:15. De Gea at the goal had actually done very well. He had opened his body as much as possible to increase his defensive area. But no matter how careful, there can always be a slip. A seemingly inconspicuous chance at the near post was actually found by Chen Chen. The already roaring Etihad Stadium erupted in cheers once again, turning into a sea of joy for Manchester City fans. Meanwhile, Chen Chen's calm shot into the near corner stunned everyone in front of the screen. Overtaking on a curve. After overtaking on a curve, he executed a cut-in and shot at the near corner, a scene many Real Madrid fans must have seen. The great Gareth Bale was the one involved in this moment. It is worth noting that this summer, in the summer of 2022, Bale signed with the Los Angeles team in Major League Soccer. After the news broke, many fans felt reluctant and helpless. After all, such a fierce warrior, who clearly still had some fuel in the tank, ended up going to Los Angeles just to maintain his touch. Of course, Bale went willingly, because the Welshman loves golf more than football. Coincidentally, Los Angeles has many golf courses and many international golf tournaments are held there. Chapter 5:16. The Manchester City fans on site went crazy, celebrating again. To be honest, when the team was down 0-1, they were indeed a bit anxious inside. After all, while they believed the team could successfully counterattack and come back, the team hadn't scored yet, and everything was still uncertain. Moreover, being a national derby, the players on both sides had a natural morale boost. Therefore, regarding the victory or defeat of the match at that moment, many Manchester City fans were still quite fearful. Fortunately, everyone performed very well today. Despite being behind, they didn't panic but instead played steadily, following the usual training routine and solidly executing each step. It is worth mentioning that there is an interesting point here. When they were down 0-1 and hadn't seen any counterattack effect, many Manchester City fans were thinking of trying to secure a draw and hoping for a win. Compared to a possible loss, a draw would be acceptable. But now, with the appearance of the fourth goal, the Blue Moon fans were no longer satisfied with a 3-goal margin. They wanted more. Chapter 5:17. Beep. The match continued. Guardiola did not make any substitutions at this point. One reason was that the players hadn't warmed up enough, and it could be risky for them to come on without proper preparation. One more thing is that he believes in the defenders on the field. After a few minutes, they can still hold on. However, reality often contradicts expectations. In the 68th minute of the match, after a bicycle kick move, facing Ruben Dias one-on-one, Cristiano Ronaldo created some distance and then unleashed a powerful shot. Boom! The ball was aimed right at Ederson's face. It was a strong and fierce strike. Ederson didn't dare to attempt a one-handed save. He could only turn his fist into a palm and deflect the ball towards the left flank. Regardless of whether his teammates could regain possession, this was definitely the right way to handle it. A beautiful shot on goal. After Ronaldo came on, Manchester United's attacking creativity was instantly evident. It was very immediate. Unfortunately, for Manchester United, Ederson became the last obstacle they could not overcome. The Brazilian goalkeeper saved the team. After missing a great opportunity, Ronaldo first held his head in frustration for a moment, then quickly raised his hand, signaling his teammate with the ball to take a shot. Chapter 5:18. The ball is in. A substitute goal from Alvarez. From suddenly falling behind at the start to scoring 5 goals with multiple contributors, Manchester City demonstrated with their absolutely dominant performance why they are the top team in the Premier League, why they're the strongest team with unmatched strength. Last season, we witnessed many connections between Alvarez and Chen Chen. In the new season, with Haaland joining Manchester City, Alvarez's starting position has been unstable. Fortunately, the wait was worth it. Playing as a left winger, Alvarez scored a goal. Of course, we also cannot forget Chen Chen's contribution. Without him, this attack wouldn't have succeeded. In a Mi-Gu broadcast studio, Jurgen was passionately commenting. Next to him, Jean-Loup let out a long sigh. You have to wonder, how did Manchester United end up like this? Coach Zhang didn't have a particularly favorite team. He was just feeling a bit sentimental for a moment. Of course, Coach Zhang was still too early in his lament. If he saw Manchester United ranked only 15th in the Premier League in the 24-25 season, he wouldn't be sighing anymore. He would feel an unbelievable absurdity. Chapter 5:19. De Gea initially thought about guarding the far corner, since the wall was meant to protect the near corner. and players need to coordinate. This is a choice all goalkeepers would make. But when the ball flew over the wall, De Gea sensed something was off. Chen Chen was aiming for the near corner. The Spanish goalkeeper quickly took 2 steps to the right. However, reality played a joke on him. As the ball descended, it changed its trajectory, originally heading towards the near corner, but veering towards the far post. And this is the essence of the elevator ball, an unpredictable trajectory. Inside the wall, Ronaldo, who was tracking the ball's path, suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. Terminal guidance? An erratic trajectory change? And an unreasonable speed. The Portuguese player realized he really has turned into an old master. Whoosh! The Etihad Stadium, which had become quiet and peaceful during Chen Chen's penalty, instantly erupted with excitement. Countless Manchester City fans began to dance with joy. 62. Damn, what level is this? How dare they share the same Manchester name? The ball. It's in. A hat trick. In this match against Manchester United, Chen Chen scored 3 goals again. Chapter 520. When Chen Chen headed to the press conference, journalists were almost burning their computer keyboards. Countless sports news began to appear on major social media platforms. The king of football. In the Manchester Derby, Chen Chen performed a hat trick, also providing an assist, leading the team to a 6-2 victory over Manchester United. Strong all the way, Manchester City secured their 8th win of the new season, earning all 24 points to sit at the top of the Premier League. A crushing defeat to Manchester City. After several consecutive victories, Manchester United faced an epic Waterloo. Chen Chen. After defeating Liverpool and Arsenal, Manchester United seemed strong, but they really aren't that strong. An embarrassing record. Since the Manchester Derby in November last season, the Red Devils have not beaten the Blue Moon for nearly 11 months, marking the worst head-to-head record since Guardiola's arrival in the Premier League. The probability is virtually 0. Reports say that major betting companies have removed and technically adjusted this season's Premier League Golden Boot odds, with the award now almost certain to go to Chen Chen. Can this be reversed? At the post-match press conference, Ten Hag boldly spoke, with situations arising frequently. Chapter 521. This is a massacre, a battle of annihilation, a great extermination. They won too easily. This can hardly be called a contest. More like a humiliation. Give them some face, they have no face left to go home. Bitter laugh. For the first time, as a Liverpool fan, I watched Manchester United's disaster without being able to laugh. Manchester City scored 6 against Manchester United, while United managed only 2. Rounding it off means Manchester City actually eased up in the second half. Otherwise, it could have been a double-digit disaster. Scientific nurturing of Ten Hag. Overall, we won a third of the game. Why a third? In the first 30 minutes, Manchester United performed better than Manchester City. I thought last season's Manchester United was already bad enough, but unexpectedly, at the start of the new season, Guardiola, let me see what kind of transformation Manchester United has undergone. After watching the match, Guardiola, 6, Manchester City really gave face. How could they not score a double-digit disaster? Chen Chen narrowly defeated Manchester United. The entire match felt like whether Manchester City could score depended entirely on whether they wanted to attack. If Manchester United wanted to score, it also depended on whether Manchester City wanted to attack. Chapter 522. A day of rest passed quickly, and the Blue Moon Army immediately entered the intense and exciting preparation phase for the Champions League. Due to the World Cup scheduled for the end of the year, there were no Champions League matches in September, and UEFA would only start scheduling matches from now in October. UEFA's intention is to ensure players' physical condition as much as possible. But, well, as enjoyable as it is now, the second half of the season will be quite harsh. For a team like Manchester City, which has a chance to compete for the championship in all 4 competitions, the pressure they will face in the second half of the season is unimaginable. Therefore, to maintain a certain lead in the grueling second half schedule, Manchester City should start accumulating all possible points right now. Of course, in reality, Manchester City is doing just that. With 8 consecutive league wins, they have earned all 24 points, leading second-placed Arsenal by 3 points. Currently, the point gap is not large. It will only widen after the Champions League, because the teams participating in the Champions League will inevitably experience some fatigue. It will be quite normal for them to suffer unexpected losses and drop points at that time. Speaking of this, we have to thank Manchester United. If they hadn't successfully thwarted Arsenal at Old Trafford, City might be level on points with Arsenal right now. Chapter 523. What Bunu was worried about did not happen. In the 60th minute of the second half, Chen Chen was substituted, achieving the punch-out accomplishment. In the 65th minute, De Bruyne's delicate shot hit the crossbar and bounced back. Subsequently, Haaland rushed to take a follow-up shot, but unfortunately, he still couldn't score, and the ball was ultimately saved by Bunu, who pushed it out for a corner. Not long after the corner was taken, a dead ball opportunity arose, and Bunu also punched out. It is worth mentioning that when leaving the field, De Bruyne did not show much joy. The Belgian was quite regretful, because he kept thinking about the moment when his previous shot missed. However, there is nothing to be done about it. After all, it is impossible to score every time one takes a shot. Wouldn't that be like catching a knife with bare hands? In the end, Manchester City continued their strong performance in the new season, achieving a 3-0 victory away against Sevilla. The Blue Moon had a great start in the new season of the Champions League. Meanwhile, this match served to clarify an issue for fans and the media. Manchester City does not have any problems with advancing to the knockout rounds. They are truly able to analyze and study their opponents in the knockout stage. Chapter 524. Fortunately, after so many years, what kind of storms has Guardiola not seen? The absence of just two players is not a problem at all. Speaking of which, Guardiola has never encountered a real problem in both the past and present. In the 24-25 season, when Rodri, Ake, Akanji, Doku, Ruben, and Kovacic were all missing due to injuries, the results for the Blue Moon were dismal. In the last 13 matches across all competitions, they only managed 1 win and 2 draws, with the remaining 10 matches all lost. This situation was indeed a bit frightening. It was precisely because of such fluctuations and low performances that the management of the Blue Moon and Guardiola made the determination to clear out some players and bring in new ones. Naturally, the aging De Bruyne, whose performance had declined significantly, appeared on the list of players to be let go. The Belgian midfielder went to Naples to reunite with his good friend Lukaku. Of course, that is a story for later. After the match between Manchester City and Brighton, there wasn't much discussion online about this game. Everyone's attention was focused on the upcoming blue-yellow battle. Is this a way to conserve strength? The Bundesliga's top team Dortmund suffered a 0-3 defeat against RB Leipzig away. Are the Yellow Submarine determined to take points at Etihad? Chapter 525. The media below began to whisper to each other again. Speaking of which, if Chen Chen had said this before the season started, there might have been someone standing up to refute him. After all, Manchester City won so many honors last season, achieving both the minor and major treble. Additionally, Chen Chen himself collected an impressive array of accolades, including the league's best player, top scorer, and assist king, as well as the Champions League's top scorer and assist king. Oh, and a European golden shoe. One can only say that last season's Manchester City and Chen Chen were truly remarkable. They had won all the honors they could achieve. Wasn't Real Madrid impressive during their three-peat? Yet even so, they did not manage to win both the La Liga and Champions League titles consecutively. But today, with Chen Chen's speech coming to an end, the reporters below began to realize a fact, that Manchester City, who had won all their matches since the start of this season, remained unstoppable. Champions? This is probably something easily within reach for Manchester City. Of course, there are still some variables, such as Guardiola's sudden tactical sluggishness and potential injury situations. Chapter 526. However, looking at it this way, UEFA's annual claims about the ticket verification system are completely false. Extending from this, the Manchester City management has something to say. If you can't even avoid the emergence of scalp tickets in the Champions League, then is it wrong for us to collaborate with scalpers at Etihad to increase our revenue? For the club, it seems that there is no problem. If the upper beam is not straight, how can the lower beam be crooked? But for fans, this is unacceptable. Therefore, we must resolutely resist scalp tickets. Of course, some people will still secretly buy them at inflated prices, which is hard to avoid. But as long as most people can take action and resist scalp tickets, there might still be some change. In the home team dressing room at Etihad, there were only a few minutes left before the match began. Guardiola was rallying the morale. Listen, this match against Dortmund will be our first key battle in the Champions League. Can we advance as group leaders? It all depends on today. Of course, I guess some people will say that it doesn't matter who finishes first or second, since both can advance. No, that mindset is unacceptable. Chapter 527. Alright, enough small talk. Let's directly look at today's starting lineups for both teams. Jean June brought the topic back. On the away side, Terzic set up a 4-3-3 formation. The goalkeeper is the German Alexander Meyer. The four defenders are Guerrero, Hummels, Sewell, and Meunier. In midfield, Emre can play centrally, with Ozcan and Bellingham on the flanks. Up front, the center forward is the French Modest, who just transferred from Cologne during the summer window, with the left winger being the makeshift Reyes and the right being Reina. Both Haller and the young Gittins are absent due to injury, forcing Reyes to step in. Now looking at Manchester City's side, they also set up in a 4-3-3 formation. In goal, Ederson. The backline consists of Udogie, Ruben Dias, Ake, and Stones. In midfield, Rodri plays a deep role, with Chen Chen and De Bruyne starting together. Holland, who just transferred from Dortmund this summer, occupies the center forward position, and there is no clause in the tripartite contract signed between Dortmund, Holland, and Manchester City that obligates the Norwegian to avoid facing his former team. Chapter 528. Mistakes are not scary. What is scary is the lack of courage to lift one's head. Chen Chen believes that Manchester City has the courage to fight again. Before long, the match resumed, due to the away team scoring first. The fans who traveled from afar to support the Yellow Submarine began to sing their cheering songs. Manchester City could not bear it. Thus, the fans of both teams began to engage in a smoke-free war, commonly known as a singing battle. At this point, Liverpool fans and Borussia Dortmund fans are the best in all of Europe because they are just incredible at singing. They never take a break. Otherwise, why has Liverpool gained so many fans in recent years, becoming the favorite team for new Premier League supporters? They sing loudly to support when they win, and they sing loudly to support when they lose. Who wouldn't love such a fan atmosphere? Furthermore, why has Westfalen become a forbidden zone in Europe? Because the South Stand of Dortmund is the most passionate area in all of Europe. No one would dare to underestimate it. Fortunately, Manchester City is at home, and there is strength in numbers, so in terms of volume, the yellow wall still has to be a bit quieter. However, occasionally outshouting the home team's German chants actually stimulates the Dortmund players on the field. Chapter 529. The large Etihad Stadium was initially as quiet as a mouse, then suddenly erupted with deafening screams and cheers. The counterattack was simply too smooth. It's hard not to feel happy about it. Goal! 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 Chen Chen's assist. And Holland seized the opportunity. The score has reached 1-1, with both teams back on the same starting line. A perfectly placed back-heel pass, a naturally flowing shot, and Dortmund ultimately couldn't hold on. On the field, Holland, who scored Manchester City's first goal, didn't celebrate at all. Facing his old club, Holland raised both hands to indicate he had no intention of celebrating. Look at what it means to have class and sentiment. In just a second or two, Chen Chen caught up from behind and jumped onto Holland's back. This goal from Holland undoubtedly ignited the passion at the Etihad, and the cheers from Manchester City fans became even louder. After all, this is the Etihad. It's not the time for Dortmund fans to take over. Soon, other Manchester City players also ran over. Everyone gathered together to celebrate this wonderful goal. Guardiola on the sidelines was also very happy. Chapter 530. Some might say 5 goals? Is that it? In fact, scoring 5 goals in the league is not easy at all. How many players can score 5 goals in a season? In the 31st minute of the match, after suffering a painful passive beating, Borussia Dortmund finally decided to start organizing a counterattack. Left-back Guerrero passed the ball to Emre Can in the middle, who then smoothly passed it to Reina on the right. The yellow wall completed the transition of possession from left to right. After receiving the ball, Reina directly aimed to cross into the Manchester City penalty area, looking for Modest. Ruben Dias jumped with Modest to contest for the ball. In this 50-50 situation, Modest managed to gain possession. The 34-year-old Frenchman then controlled the ball, turned to create space, and unleashed a powerful shot aimed at the top corner near the right post. Modest found a good angle, and Ederson couldn't react in time. By the time the Brazilian goalkeeper dove, it was already too late. Fortunately, Modest's shot had a bit too much power, and the ball flew straight out from the top corner of the goalpost. Commonly known as hitting a plane, phew. Seeing the crisis averted, the Manchester City fans could finally sit down and take a breather. Chapter 531. The brief halftime quickly came to an end, and the match resumed. Terzic's initial idea was still to continue to defend, focusing on counterattack for now. If things didn't improve after around 70 minutes, then they would consider trying other formations. As for now, the yellow wall didn't immediately make any substitutions. Terzic chose not to actively change formations. Of course, This doesn't mean that Dortmund would give up the match while trailing. In fact, no matter how they changed, it would still be difficult for them to score. It would be better to see if they could adjust their positioning in the second half while the players were still in good sync and performing well. In the 49th minute of the match, Dortmund earned a set-piece opportunity on the left side of the attacking zone. Bellingham and Reyes came up to take it. In the end, Bellingham's leg brushed past the ball, and Reyes followed up with a shot. He didn't give Ederson much space to defend, as Reyes' shot was aimed directly at the left post. This is what fans often refer to as a pass to the back post. The 20-year-old American forward Reina rushed in. Standing at 185 centimeters, Reina made a powerful header. Chapter 532. As the saying goes, fortune favors the bold. But who knows? It can also lead to loss and danger. Dortmund wanted to take advantage of their numerical superiority to exploit an area with more attacking players. But would Manchester City just stand there and wait to die? They certainly wanted to seize the opportunity of Dortmund's attacking gaps to execute another counterattack. It can only be said that, although both are European powerhouses, there is a strength gap between them. Meanwhile, the entire stadium was in a completely boiling state. Manchester City fans used their sharp and high-pitched cheers to prove that the Etihad Stadium belongs to their Blue Moon Army. It's the home of Manchester City. All the Blue Moon fans erupted in cheers at that moment. 4-1. 4-1. Who says Manchester City can only beat red teams 4-1? They can beat the yellow and black as well. The white Real Madrid and the red and blue Barcelona came, and they can beat them too. The Blue Moon fans began waving their sky blue scarves, and everyone started shouting the name of the goal scorer, Chen Chen. Chen Chen once again became the brightest star at the Etihad Stadium. Is this the level of the perennial second place in the Bundesliga? Bring Bayern over. Bring Bayern over. On the sidelines, an extremely excited Guardiola suddenly performed a set of Farmer's three fists. Chapter 533. Being defeated by Manchester City 5 times is already very humiliating. Liverpool really doesn't want to continue losing. Based on this, Liverpool supporters began discussing another extreme scenario. Is it possible for the team to dominate in the Europa League? This idea quickly made its way to trending online. Some people actually began to consider it seriously. After all, don't dismiss the Europa League title as not being a championship. Manchester United wants it, but can't get it. Of course, to be serious, given Liverpool's strength, winning the Europa League would certainly be easier than winning the Champions League. Saying it could be done effortlessly might be a bit disrespectful to other Europa League teams, but with a little effort, it's still feasible. Regarding these opinions online, most Liverpool fans held a contrary attitude, and many die-hard supporters were extremely angry. Liverpool has won big against others and has also suffered heavy defeats, but they have never surrendered or avoided battle against anyone. Isn't it just 6 captures, 7 captures? Come on, Manchester City, come over here. The Red Army fans are very dissatisfied with the external comments. Even if we can't compete with Manchester City, it shouldn't be this embarrassing, right? We all have 2 arms and 1 head. Can Manchester City really win every time? Chapter 534. The match information of Manchester City against Liverpool has begun to spread in the online world, and countless fans are looking forward to witnessing a clash of titans akin to Mars colliding with Earth. While fans are eagerly anticipating, the Manchester City players are immersed in their leisure time. After defeating Leicester City, the Blue Moon squad has a break. Not much, just 3 days. But for players who have been exhausted throughout September and October, this is a very precious opportunity for rest. Based on this, all Manchester City players quickly left Manchester, and their 3-day mini-holiday began. However, for the management and coaching staff of Manchester City, they do not enjoy such good treatment. The management needs to organize and summarize potential signings and departures for the winter transfer window, while the coaching staff needs to discuss tactical approaches for the match against Liverpool. Although Manchester City has an absolute advantage in terms of victories over Liverpool, who can guarantee they will win again this time. Currently, after the first 10 rounds of the Premier League, Manchester City has won all 10 matches, earning 30 points, ranking first. Following closely is Arsenal, led by Arteta. Chapter 535. Walker's legs are very uncomfortable. He has been undergoing rehabilitation training at the club for 3 days and is currently unable to participate in league matches normally, let alone ride a bicycle. As for Grealish, it goes without saying, his purpose in playing football is to hang out in bars and nightclubs. No one knows exactly which bar or nightclub Grealish is in, nor whether he is in London, Manchester, Birmingham, or some other European city. The only thing to understand is that Grealish is likely busy having fun. What? Riding a bicycle? Grealish doesn't he love that? He prefers to have fun with girls. 3 days of rest might seem long, but soon, the Manchester City players gathered again, and the 11th round of the Premier League is about to kick off. As for the content reported by The Sun, everyone just laughed it off. Chen Chen invited Grealish to go cycling, but since Grealish was more interested in girls, there wasn't much point in bringing him along. Correspondingly, Grealish also called Chen Chen to come talk to girls. Chen Chen declined. It's not that Chen Chen no longer likes girls. It's just that his status has risen, making it easy for paparazzi to follow him. Chapter 536. The match between Manchester City and Liverpool has attracted a tremendous amount of attention from fans, and many fans worldwide are expected to watch this match. Unfortunately, on the day of the match, the hot headline is not about Manchester City versus Liverpool, but rather news concerning Cristiano Ronaldo and Manchester United. The plot begins with Morgan releasing a video of Ronaldo's exclusive interview. In the video, the Portuguese player explains why he does not respect Ten Hag and critiques the facilities at the Carrington training ground. When Chen Chen learned about this, he felt a jolt in his heart. Well, what is meant to come will come. Some things cannot be changed, right? Chen Chen quickly called Mendes. As the godfather of Ronaldo's children and a big player in the football transfer circle, Mendes no longer had his usual humor and wit. Instead, he sounded very helpless and exhausted. When Chen Chen asked if it was really impossible to stop or mend the situation, Mendes simply replied with a sound of acknowledgement, followed by a sigh, stating that he would only listen to Regef. In fact, our relationship has ended. I am no longer able to salvage the situation. Regef is Ronaldo's personal assistant, and since the second half of the 2021-22 season, he has replaced Mendes as Ronaldo's full-time personal assistant, taking over all advertising endorsements and business collaborations, which Mendes can no longer interfere with. Chapter 537. Back to the main topic. There is still more than half an hour before the match begins, but Anfield is already packed. According to a recent report by Spain's Marca, Liverpool ranks 9th in the 5 major leagues with an annual attendance of 1.6 million. However, it should be noted that Anfield has a capacity of just over 60,000. Even if it is full, it cannot compare to the top few, especially considering Westfalen Stadion, which has a total annual attendance of 1.8 million. Manchester City shares the same predicament as Liverpool. The capacity of Manchester City is only 55,000, but their total attendance has reached 1.45 million. Although this is significantly less than Liverpool, when you account for a difference of 5,000 for 1 round and 10,000 for 2 rounds, the gap isn't that large. So what does this prove? It proves that Europe's devilish stadiums are not only Westfalen Stadion and Camp Nou, but also Anfield, which always sings You'll Never Walk Alone, and the competitive Etihad. Dortmund fans claim they want to win against Manchester City at home to regain some face. It can only be said that this is very difficult. Chapter 538. Now looking at Liverpool. The regular 4-2-3-1 formation, with goalkeeper Alisson, another Brazilian national team goalkeeper. The 4 defenders are Scottish Robertson, Captain Van Dijk, Joe Gomez, and temporary right-back Milner. Although Klopp has consistently stated in the media that the team will definitely win this match, the injuries to Matip and Konate have ultimately weakened the strength and intensity of Liverpool's defense. Additionally, the long-term absence of players like Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain has left Klopp with no one available in midfield. He can only use Elliott on the right front and Firmino as the attacking midfielder. The winter transfer window hasn't even started, and Liverpool is already caught in an injury crisis. This also indicates that Liverpool's recent defeats are not merely due to tactical changes on the field. It is primarily because of the significant absence of key players. The double pivot features Thiago partnering with Fabinho. The 3 attacking midfielders are Jota, Firmino, and Elliott, with Salah leading the attack. Chapter 539. In the 11th minute, Chen Chen, who hadn't touched the ball much, took the initiative to drop back for support. Fabinho, who had been following Chen Chen, continued to follow him. Today, the Brazilian midfielder has only one task: to closely mark Chen Chen during defensive plays. Of course, Fabinho's stamina is not as good as Chen Chen's. If he keeps running back and forth, his energy will definitely run out before Chen Chen's. Therefore, Klopp had Elliott come back to provide support. Elliott's defensive quality may not necessarily be able to completely stop Chen Chen, but being young, he has the stamina. An old Fabinho and a young Elliott player came to double team, making it difficult for Chen Chen to break through with the ball. However, Chen Chen did not panic. It was hard for him to carry the ball forward, but who said that only one person could advance alone on the football field? As Elliot approached, Chen Chen immediately turned and sent a kick to the right front area. This was a long pass that crossed more than half the field. Cancelo, who had made a forward run, seemed like he was possessed by Marcelo at that moment, as the Portuguese player accurately controlled the ball at his feet. At the same time, Holland rushed into the opponent's penalty area, and De Bruyne was also sprinting desperately towards the opponent's baseline. Chapter 540. Jean-Loup sighed and remarked, "Why could Manchester City score this goal?" Firstly, it was because Van Dijk did not dare to foul De Bruyne, allowing the Manchester City captain to easily deliver the ball near the penalty spot. Even more surprising was that Holland actually managed to get the ball. This was a defensive mistake by Gomez. Liverpool's defense was extremely unstable today, and with the current situation being one goal down, could Klopp still have a plan? Jean-Loup quickly asked and answered himself. It's difficult, because with pressure building up in front and behind, I see that Liverpool's goal count will never catch up to the number of goals conceded. Not to mention that Liverpool hasn't scored yet. Jean-Loup's words undoubtedly added salt to Jean-Jun's wounds, but due to the live commentary, Jean-Jun could only shake his head, pushing away his worries and helplessness, and continue to immerse himself in the game with full emotion and enthusiasm. Coincidentally, Yin E, the commentator who often covers Dortmund matches, also had this worry. Helplessly and despairingly watching the Yellow Submarine concede goals and lose matches, yet still having to muster the spirit for live interaction. Who can bear that? At Anfield, the match quickly resumed. Chapter 541. The Reds fans on site instantly erupted in passionate cheers. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Come from behind. Come from behind. Just like the excited fans in the stands, the Liverpool players on the bench also began to cheer and dance. The match wasn't over yet. It was still unclear who would win. On the field, Salah, who helped the team score the equalizer, opened his arms and rushed toward the corner flag. Then, with a classic ducking motion, the Egyptian pharaoh dodged the hugging celebration attempt from Firmino and Elliot. In the Sky Sports studio, several hosts burst into laughter. When he scored against Southampton, Salah quickly ducked to avoid his teammates' attempts to hug him in celebration. Interestingly, one of the two players who wanted to hug Salah back then was indeed on the field today, and that was the Scot, Robertson. The other was the then-team captain Henderson. Today, Henderson sat on the bench, as due to his increasing age, it was rare for him to start a match anymore. On the field, Liverpool players were passionately celebrating, while the Manchester City players quickly returned to their positions. Chapter 542. Both coaches were not satisfied with the first half's performance. Guardiola was unhappy with the team's attacking methods, which were so lackluster compared to before. Besides Holland, De Bruyne, and Chen Chen, did the other players really care about this match? Oh, and we must also count Rodri. The Spanish midfielder cleared many potential dangers for Gravenberch in the first half, playing the role of a backline sweeper. Of course, in terms of overall situation, the Blue Moons still had a slight advantage, and Guardiola's dissatisfaction mostly stemmed from his excessive pursuit of perfection. Interestingly, many have confirmed Guardiola's tendency to pursue perfection. Players like Sterling and Zinchenko have mentioned that the pressure from Guardiola is immense. Winning the game isn't enough. It must be a perfect win to count. Who can withstand that? If it were Ten Hag's Manchester United, no matter how much effort we put into winning the match, we would just say whether we won or not. On Liverpool's side, Klopp had many points of dissatisfaction. Unreasonable positioning, defensive vulnerabilities, and a frustrating red card. Chapter 543. The match continued. In the 62nd minute, Liverpool, playing with 10 men, managed to execute a decent attacking play. Salah distributed the ball, and it reached Nunez's feet. Arnold made a desperate run to draw Gravenberch away, and Chen Chen faced Nunez on the wing. To be honest, the Uruguayan international felt a bit nervous facing Chen Chen. Some might say, with that mindset, how can you play football? How to put it? The highest prized player in the football world is right in front of him. Who would he feel nervous? Fortunately, Nunez's footwork remained steady, and he successfully dribbled past. But what about the ball? Chen Chen accurately intercepted it, completing a good tackle. Then, before Nunez could turn around in a frenzy, Chen Chen quickly made a backheel pass to find Alvarez. Boom! The little spider receiving the ball did not choose to take a couple of extra steps to adjust. After controlling the ball, Alvarez directly made a horizontal pass towards the empty middle. Haaland followed up with a shot. The Norwegian forward's shot was slightly too powerful, and the ball grazed the crossbar and flew out. Haaland was stunned, kneeling on the ground and pounding the ground, while the little spider held his head in disbelief. Chapter 544. In the end, Anthony Taylor stood by his decision. The penalty was indisputable. Seeing that their pressure had no effect, Liverpool players began to get agitated, as if they were ready to confront the referee. Fortunately, most players remained rational, and the imagined conflict did not occur. The decision was effective, except for the goalkeeper. Everyone had to leave the penalty area. It was at this moment, amidst the boos and noise from the crowd, that the big screen and various broadcast feeds began to replay the earlier situation. On screen, the little spider Alvarez rushed from behind to the front, struggling to win a second ball. Then, Alvarez chose to control the ball and turn to shoot, but failed to do so. The footage showed he and Arnold fell to the ground. It looked like a 50-50 ball dispute, but in fact, the reason the little spider fell was that Arnold had made some moves with his hands. As soon as the replay ended, the broadcast quickly found Klopp on the sidelines, frowning. This was truly a case of misfortunes never coming alone. Due to Fabinho's sudden red card, Liverpool had been unable to organize effective attacks. Chapter 545. Anfield has become a carnival for Manchester City fans. Interestingly, many people online are saying that Manchester City's large victory over their opponents is because they took advantage of Liverpool playing with one less man. This is just a joke. Isn't this unfortunate situation of being one man down created by Liverpool themselves? In response, Manchester City fans expressed that you can't only support the referee's decisions when your team is leading. Unlike the cheering Manchester City fans, the Liverpool cop on the other side remained very silent. Liverpool fans are quite open-minded about wins and losses. After all, they've already been beaten 5-0 before, so they don't care about losing 6-0 or 7-0. However, such a crushing defeat is indeed very frustrating. Fortunately, they did not get discouraged. And after Klopp led the team off the field, Anfield echoed with their own cheering songs again. The harmonious "You'll Never Walk Alone" floated in the air at Anfield. They lost this time, but they can come back next time. The question is, do Liverpool really have a chance to come back? After the match, Chen Chen, as the best player of the game, received the official FMVP trophy. Chapter 546. Regarding the fans, let's just say fans. Guardiola and Chen Chen did not come out to explain, because explaining to people like them is just too exhausting. Not to mention the importance of the Golden Boy Award for young talents. Just the match against Chelsea coming up in 2.5 days should not be overlooked by the Blue Moon. Yes, Manchester City's strength is indeed formidable, but are they strong enough to disregard fatigue and travel exhaustion and casually overturn their opponents? Probably not, right? Even the dream team of Barcelona and peak Real Madrid wouldn't dare to say they are guaranteed to win. Back to the topic. On the day of the awards ceremony, Chen Chen wore a stylish suit, dressing himself up like an adult. Before entering the venue, Chen Chen received a warm welcome from many people, including football stars, local officials, and various cross-industry celebrities. There's no helping it. Who can resist football, the world's #1 sport? Although the red carpet here may not shine as brightly as in Hollywood or Cannes, it still allows for some spotlight. Thus, Chen Chen met many cross-industry stars. Chapter 547. In the League Cup match against Chelsea, nearly 55,000 spectators flocked into the Etihad Stadium. This means that, aside from a few seats reserved for security needs and VIP customers, all other seats were filled. The outside fans' claims that Etihad fans are not enthusiastic can be put to rest. The entire stadium was packed. Isn't that enthusiastic enough? Isn't that enough to support the team? Of course, there are some other factors involved, such as this being the second-to-last match at the Etihad Stadium before the World Cup begins. Brentford's strength is certainly not on par with Chelsea, so this match can be considered the last strong showdown at the Etihad Stadium before the World Cup. The next chance for such a match would have to wait until after Christmas. Against the Blues, Chen Chen continued to start alongside De Bruyne. However, in the 19th minute of the match, Chen Chen had to leave the field due to injury. The reason was that during a jump for a header, Chen Chen collided with Koulibaly. The Senegalese international is indeed not the brightest. Many say he is world-class below the neck, but lacks football intelligence and emotional intelligence. Chapter 548. While the Manchester City versus Chelsea match was ongoing, Southgate made a call to the Manchester City bench. After inquiring about Chen Chen's situation with the City officials, Southgate finally breathed a sigh of relief. It is worth mentioning that to ensure the information given to Southgate was accurate, the Manchester City official specifically consulted with the team doctor and Chen Chen before providing a double confirmation to Southgate. When Chen Chen learned about this, he couldn't help but chuckle. Wow, such a powerful old man managed to make a call to the Manchester City bench. After the match, Southgate even took the initiative to visit the Manchester City dressing room to inquire about Chen Chen's condition in person. That evening, Chen Chen did not spend the night in Manchester. He went to London with Southgate, arriving at St. George's Park, which is full of beautiful housekeepers. Although Manchester City assured Southgate that Chen Chen would not play in the final match, adhering to the principle that there are always schemers wanting to harm him, Southgate decided to bring Chen Chen to St. George's. Besides having a more professional medical team, the key reason is that there are currently very few players at St. George's. So Chen Chen wouldn't even be able to train. Chapter 549. While Chen Chen was recuperating at St. George's Park, the Blue Moon Army had regrouped, waiting for their match against Brentford. The Bees had introduced several strong reinforcements during the summer transfer window, including Danish player Damsgaard from Sampdoria. One could say that Thomas Frank is truly patriotic. He is almost turning Brentford into Denmark's youth training camp. Of course, the final return has been quite rich, as he became a key midfielder for Brentford. Speaking of which, the Bees and Wolves are quite similar, as Wolves are also referred to as a national team youth training base by outside fans. Most of their players are Portuguese, hence Wolves are also called the Portuguese youth training base. In this match, Frank deployed his favored 3-5-2 formation, led by Matthias Jensen and Ivan Toney. On Manchester City's side, Gundogan replaced Chen Chen in the left midfield position, and Guardiola opted for a 4-3-3 formation today. Due to the upcoming World Cup, both teams played rather uninspired football, lacking intensity. Ultimately, Manchester City narrowly defeated Brentford 3-2, with Haaland scoring 1 goal and providing 1 assist, while De Bruyne, who was about to report to the Belgium national team, scored twice. Chapter 550. For England, the benefits of doing so are obvious. That is, when Saudi media write news, they must include other teams. This way, the attention is dispersed, and there won't be too many people supporting the Three Lions for hosting the World Cup in Saudi Arabia. Now, someone might ask, why hide something that involves paying for a service and receiving support? This can be blamed on Qatar. Qatar has exhausted countless laborers in building World Cup venues. In Europe, especially in Western Europe, everyone is a human rights advocate. The ordinary people in Europe can hardly distinguish between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. After all, you all look like oil tycoons with a piece of cloth on your heads. The tragedies that occurred in Doha will surely happen in Riyadh as well. Based on this, the English Football Association and the management of the Three Lions dare not make a big deal out of it. They just want to take the money and leave as soon as possible. When the England national team's private jet landed at King Khalid International Airport in Riyadh, a large crowd was waiting below. Looking around, there was a line of people with cloth on their heads. At the front of the crowd of oil tycoons stood Prince Faisal, the Saudi Minister of Sports, followed by Yasser Al-Masihal, the president of the Saudi Football Association. Chapter 551. As Chen Chen was heading to Nyon, Switzerland, various national teams successfully concluded their friendly matches before the start of the World Cup. Japan lost 12-0 to Canada. Originally, the Sakura fans were looking forward to a showdown with the World Cup favorites, England, but no one expected they couldn't even beat Canada, who had previously lost to the Three Lions. The entire country of Japan was in shock. Losing to a Canada ranked lower than themselves was unacceptable. Canada, on the other hand, didn't have as many expectations. Their group opponents are Belgium, Croatia, and Morocco, all of whom are much stronger than them. Therefore, Canada set a minimum requirement of scoring 1 goal to earn 1 point. As for anything more, they would leave it to fate. Croatia, in the same group as Canada, is in great form, having recently defeated the host nation Qatar and Italy, who came through the Euro qualifiers. The 2018 World Cup runners-up are currently in the spotlight. In these 2 matches, Guardiola performed exceptionally well and called out to Chen Chen from a distance. Chapter 552. Moreover, even speaking with facts, it's still Chen Chen who is winning awards. The second favorite, Benzema, won the La Liga title and the La Liga Golden Boot this year, while Chen Chen has both the Champions League and League Golden Boots, being the cornerstone of Manchester City's 6th title win. As for other popular candidates like Maine and Lewandowski, they can't compare to Chen Chen. Therefore, Fans simply can't think of a reason for Chen Chen not to win an award. It can't be that a player who won the Golden Boy Award can't win the Ballon d'Or in the same year, right? Not to mention that one is organized by Tuttosport and the other is established by France Football. The two are not comparable. Just like someone can win both the Hollywood Awards and the Cannes Awards simultaneously, as long as the strength is there, what awards can't be swept together? The debate between media people, fans, and media personalities has stirred up a slight ripple in what was essentially settled for the Ballon d'Or. Of course, it's just a slight ripple. The opening award for this Ballon d'Or is the Copa Trophy, which is awarded to the best young player of the year. Considering that Chen Chen won it last year, this year's Copa Trophy winner is the second Golden Boy, Gavi from Barcelona. The award was presented to Gavi by the editor-in-chief of France Football. Chapter 553. The 9th and 10th places are both Real Madrid players, Modric and Vinicius, respectively. The 8th place is Haaland. After transferring from Dortmund to Manchester City, Haaland had no significant issues. In fact, he has brought fear to the Premier League. Unfortunately, the Ballon d'Or only considers performances up to July, which means Haaland's performance during his time at Dortmund is what counts. Can his performance at Manchester City help him win the Ballon d'Or? It's difficult, as Norway didn't make it to the World Cup. If you can't play in a major tournament during a tournament year, it's impossible to rank high for the Ballon d'Or. The 7th place is Mbappe, and the 6th is Salah. Salah is already 30 years old, and this 6th place is likely the highest ranking for the Egyptian in the Ballon d'Or. 5th place goes to Lewandowski. The year of the pandemic, the Ballon d'Or organizers, France Football, canceled the awards ceremony, which was quite cruel for the poll. To put it bluntly, it's just that the Polish government has little power. They can't make their voice heard in either the EU or UEFA. If it were Mbappe or Kane, would England and France sit idly by? Next up is the 4th place, Senegalese International, Maine. Chapter 554. The subsequent process became quite formulaic. Interviews, taking photos with fans, then attending a dinner to meet some celebrities. As the newly crowned Ballon d'Or winner, Chen Chen was undoubtedly the brightest star at the dinner. Especially with his high looks, many wealthy young ladies were starstruck. After the dinner, Chen Chen parted ways with Guardiola. He needed to take a private jet with his friends to Qatar, where the Three Lions national team was waiting for them. In fact, Yazzie and Walker were willing to travel all the way to Nyon, Switzerland, purely to support their good brother Chen Chen. Otherwise, wouldn't it be nicer to go to Qatar with Southgate? Speaking of Southgate, he was nominated for the Best Men's Football Coach Award. But all he had to show for it was the European Championship title from last year, which was outside the evaluation period. So, rather than being there just to create an atmosphere, Southgate might as well practice a few tactics. On the 18th, 4 days before the World Cup opening ceremony, FIFA released a promotional video for the Qatar World Cup. In the video, Chen Chen led a lineup with Mbappe, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Messi on an epic stage. Chapter 555. In the 15th minute of the match, the first goal of this World Cup was scored. Ecuador's Estrada sent a through ball during a counterattack, and Qatar's goalkeeper Saad Al-Sheeb fouled Valencia, who was charging into the penalty area. Note, this is not that Valencia. Ecuador was awarded a penalty, and Inter Valencia scored effortlessly. Ecuador 1, Qatar 0. 15 minutes later, in the 30th minute of the match, Moises Caicedo, who was still playing for Brighton but about to move to Chelsea, made a cross near the sideline, and Valencia scored again with a header. At that moment, all the fans understood, including Jean Jun and Zhang Lu in the live streaming room. They realized Qatar was not the South Korea of the past. They wanted to play the game honorably and win or lose fairly. The final score remained at these 2 goals in the first half, with neither side scoring in the second half, though the number of yellow cards increased a bit. Speaking of yellow cards, in the 78th minute of the second half, when Qatar's Afif clashed with an Ecuadorian player, Orsado surprisingly did not give both players a yellow card but decisively issued Afif a yellow card. Chapter 556. In a match between Qatar and Ecuador, although the strength gap between the two teams on paper is indeed large, Ecuador's 3 points are basically secure. But can we really say Qatar can't win? There must be some who believe in them. After all, they're the Asian Cup champions and playing at home. However, in the case of Netherlands versus Senegal, not many people thought Senegal could win. Yes, Senegal has the future Chelsea recruit Jackson, current Chelsea defender Koulibaly, and goalkeeper Edouard Mendy. But when it comes to the abstract attacking power of their front line, Senegal not only failed to win the match, but even scoring a goal was a question. And the facts indeed confirm this. In less than 30 minutes of the first half, the Dutch had already scored 3 goals, while their opponent had not scored a single one. In the second half, Van Dijk assisted Gakpo with a header, and the Tulips completed a commanding victory, easily defeating their opponent 4-0. This match nearly pushed fans who enjoy betting into despair. Everyone thought Qatar would at least remain unbeaten in their first match, but they ended up losing by 2 goals. And now in the Netherlands match, Senegal is not weak, so it should have been a win for the bookmakers, right? Chapter 557. At 8 p.m. local time in Doha, there is a 3-hour time difference with China, so it is already 11 p.m. on the Chinese side. Of course, compared to the usual 3 or 4 a.m. starts of the top 5 leagues, the start time of the Qatar World Cup is quite reasonable. In the Khalifa International Stadium, local white headscarves and fans waving Iranian flags are everywhere, while most of the Three Lions fans are concentrated in the southern stand of the home team, with not many Three Lions fans in the main stand and the opposite stand. This is related to the ticket numbers given by FIFA. Both England and Iran received nearly 10,000 tickets, but Iran, without adhering to fair play, obtained nearly 6,000 additional tickets through scalpers. As a result, the Iranian fans in red jerseys definitely outnumbered the English fans. Of course, there were also English fans who bought scalper tickets at inflated prices. But due to the first match being against Iran and the stadium's capacity being only 40,000, the number of Three Lions fans naturally could not compete with their opponents. Besides, it's just a match against Iran. What is so exciting about it? Wake up to another big victory. Chapter 558. Just as a few people were discussing the details of scoring, Southgate clapped his hands to draw everyone's attention. Stop chatting and joking around. Let us prepare well. We are about to go out. After winning the first match, I will allow you to take a day off to accompany your wives, girlfriends, and children. There are no major tactical issues today. Just play out what we trained for. For England, do we have confidence? Yes. Very good. Let us go. At Southgate's command, the Three Lions players began to walk out of the locker room one after another. Among them, Chen Chen was the most excited. The broadcast camera focused on him, and from his eyes, countless fans read his desire for victory and respect for the game. In simple terms, today Persia is in for a tough time. Chapter 559. 10 Steps to Kill a Man. No trace left for 1,000 miles. A journey of 3,000 miles in one go. A sword can take on 1,000,000 troops. This Chen Chen. Incredible. At Khalifa International Stadium, the hearts of the Iranian players, along with the Persian fans on site, were quietly shattering. No one was unaware of how strong Chen Chen is, nor how good he is at seizing opportunities and scoring. But now, during England's first free kick opportunity, Chen Chen seized it. Is this even human? What kind of game is this? Of course, it wasn't just the Iranian fans. Neutral spectators and Three Lions fans, including viewers and commentators at home, were all astonished. After all, who wouldn't be shocked by such a falling leaf curve? Meanwhile, in Spain, Catalonia, at Guardiola's home, Guardiola was holding his bald head in disbelief. To be honest, he had seen the free kicks Chen Chen took, whether in training or in matches. But the way he struck the ball straight down the middle with such exquisite curving spin still left Guardiola in awe. Chapter 560. Once he dodged, Jahanbakhsh chose to pass the ball. He didn't look for Taremi, who was running wildly while glancing back, but found the number 8 player, Paralaganji, who was making a run from behind. Meanwhile, the two midfielders, Ali Reza Jahanbakhsh and Nuralahi, hurried to the left and right edges of the Manchester City area. The Persian army sought to find more points for passing and ball control. Of course, considering that Manchester City's fullbacks are not to be underestimated. Perhaps directly looking for their main striker Taremi would be better. In fact, Paralaganji did just that. Bang! Paralaganji suddenly sent a forward-through ball to Taremi. Just as the spectators were wondering what was happening, Maguire stepped up. He first blocked Taremi's position, stretched out his foot, and intercepted the ball. Subsequently, with a very accurate long pass over the top, Maguire found Grealish, who was near the right flank. At that moment, all the England fans in the stadium were stunned. At the club, they were meek, but now they're showing off at the national team. Chapter 561. Khalifa International Stadium erupted again with cheers from the traveling England fans. In contrast, countless Iranian fans fell into silence and despair. At this moment, the Persian fans suddenly realized how ridiculous their pre-match talk of aiming for a draw or a win was. They were slapping themselves in the face. On the sidelines, after the die-hard fans finished celebrating, Chen Chen and Grealish performed a unique celebration together. It was a celebration action where they spread their arms like a fluttering moth. Back in Manchester, Chen Chen and Grealish had met some young Manchester City fans from an orphanage who requested them to perform this celebration during the match. Thus, countless fans saw Chen Chen's celebration move, which looked like a seaweed. Ha ha ha. How can this celebration move of Chen Chen be so funny? I'm almost dying of laughter. I heard that this move is a promise he made with the children from the orphanage. Everyone can check the news. Wow, good looks and kindness. I'm in love. Ha ha ha. Professional players not only need good skills, but also good character. Chen Chen is doing great. I didn't pick the wrong idol. Chapter 562. First of all, Chen, congratulations on winning the Ballon d'Or and completing your World Cup debut. In the first match, or to put it another way, in the first half, you scored twice and got your first assist. You looked very relaxed, and they seemed to pose no threat to you. How do you feel at this moment? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your blessings for my award. About the match? I'm very happy, after all. The ultimate dream of every footballer is to stand on the World Cup stage. Iran is a very strong opponent. Winning is not easy, but thankfully we persevered. Upon hearing this, the reporter conducting the interview immediately raised an eyebrow. Are you that humble? A 5-0 victory over your opponent, and you tell me winning wasn't easy? Let's discuss the Golden Boot winner of this World Cup. Currently, you and Kane both have 2 goals. Before the match started, I told him, Kane, that I would try to help him win the Golden Boot. But from the current situation, I think I will defeat everyone and win this Golden Boot. Chen Chen's statement was quite arrogant. However, he has the capital to be arrogant. Chapter 563. The first 2 lines are reserved for Diogo Jota. Rest in peace. You who love football, you will never walk alone. The World Cup matches continue, and the major powerhouse teams are starting to take the stage. Soon it was the turn of Argentina, led by Paris star Messi. Scaloni first announced the starting lineup for this match. Lautaro Martinez as the forward, Messi playing as a free man, and Di Maria and De Paul coordinating well in attack and defense. The only drawback is the defense. The 34-year-old former Manchester City centre-back Otamendi, Spurs rotation player Romero, and Tagliafico, who has been in poor form with only 9 starts in a whole season at Ajax after an injury. The only reliable defender is Molina from Atletico Madrid. It is worth mentioning that Argentina is not without options. On their bench, they have Lisandro Martinez, who just joined Manchester United this summer, Sevilla defender Acuna, and Montiel. Scaloni's formation purely looks down on Saudi Arabia. His idea is actually very simple. On the shores of the Persian Gulf, victory and defeat on the green field are commonplace and unpredictable. But everyone admits that it is on this World Cup stage that many legends of heroes and desolation, glory and tears are written, hence the saying in football that the Hercules Cup determines the fate. Chapter 564. Facing post-match interviews from the media. Even though the match had already ended, the Frenchman Renard was still very excited and thrilled. We don't have Chen Chen, but we have Dossari and Marquis. Renard's words were like rubbing salt into the wounds of the blue and white army. After all, who doesn't know that Argentina ended a 35-match unbeaten streak because they lost to England, who had Chen Chen? Yes, most of our players play in the Saudi League, and they don't have much experience abroad. So, Argentina can't study us, while we can study them freely. About the next round against Italy? No, I don't want to think about the next match right now. I just want to celebrate with my players. England has defeated Argentina, and now we have also defeated Argentina. So can we say we are on par with England? Laughs, advancing? No one doesn't want to advance. But we need to calm down and then see what happens in the future. Yes, our chances of advancing are currently the best in Group C. In fact, whether we advance as first or second, I'm very satisfied. Chapter 565. Chen Chen, this butterfly has changed quite a lot of things. Just take Italy as an example. At least they can't come to Doha. As for whether they can advance from this group after coming, that depends on whether they can seize the opportunity themselves. After Denmark and Italy, the matches of Groups E and F are about to take the stage. Group E consists of Germany, Japan, Spain, and Costa Rica. Among them, Germany and Spain are the most favored teams by the outside world. The question is just who is first and second. But unexpectedly, Japan suddenly stepped in to stir things up. In 2018, Japan lost to Belgium, and the last 14 seconds felt like a lifetime. Based on this, the Japan Football Association even made some kind of documentary. How should I put it? Japan should focus on making romantic films instead of documentaries. This time, their opponent, the German team, has a similar mindset. In the last World Cup in Russia, the German machine was disgracefully unable to advance from a group. This time in Qatar, they definitely want to restore their predecessor's glory. But what exactly are they playing? Chapter 566. The intensity of the World Cup matches is quite high. To be honest, there aren't many strong players on the bench. Who dares to say they can steadily reach the quarterfinals? Take Ecuador, for example. Their strength is quite good, but the gap between the main players and the substitutes is too large. So after substitutions, Ecuador's attacking intensity dropped sharply. Thus, being reversed and losing points became expected. What? Can we not substitute? Qatar's weather is notoriously hot. If a key player is overworked, the player's health could be a big issue. Do you think Ecuador would dare to do that? Definitely not. Based on this, the head coach can only try to keep the key players on the field for a few more minutes. For example, in the match against the Netherlands, Caicedo's score was only 63, but Ecuador's coach Alfaro still chose not to substitute him. There's no way. The performance of several midfield substitutes on the bench might not even match that of Caicedo, who played for 70 minutes, so it's better not to substitute. And this issue is not a problem for England. In the last training session before the match against the USA, Southgate stated that he would make significant rotations to ensure everyone's physical condition is in top shape. Chapter 567. The fans of the Three Lions are celebrating wildly, while the American fans are slowly showing a question mark. Wasn't it agreed to be peaceful? What is this? The match quickly resumed, and seeing the 3 points slipping away, the U.S. team began their final push. In the 903rd minute of the match, during the last minute of stoppage time, the U.S. team had a corner kick opportunity. Due to the relatively smooth flow of the entire second half, the referee allowed for 3 minutes of stoppage time. Speaking of stoppage time, it is worth mentioning that FIFA had previously provided specific guidelines regarding this during the World Cup. In simple terms, it can be summarized in one sentence. If a few minutes are wasted during the match, then the stoppage time will be extended by those few minutes. Lying down? Sure. Go ahead. There won't be a minute less. For example, in the first round match between Denmark and Tunisia, there was an unusually long 11 minutes of stoppage time due to various issues. While 11 minutes may not seem like much in the future, it certainly feels like a lot in the current Qatar World Cup. Not to mention, if the referee adds an extra 12 minutes, that would cover the entire first half of traditional extra time. Chapter 568. Currently, the most uncomfortable situation is for the Netherlands team in Group A. They have 1 win and 1 loss, accumulating 4 points, placing them first in the group. Ecuador also has 1 win and 1 loss with 4 points, but ranks second due to goal difference. Senegal sits third with 3 points. The host nation, Qatar, is in a dire situation, having lost both matches and sitting at the bottom with 0 points. Wales at least has a point from a draw, while Qatar is purely at the level of a one-round exit, merely there to lose money and make noise. Excluding Qatar, it is uncertain whether the other 3 teams in Group A will advance or be eliminated. This will depend on the performance of the teams in the matches starting at the same time in the 3rd round. For the Dutch, the silver lining is that their final opponent is Qatar, and as long as they do not lose, they are guaranteed to advance. However, if they advance as the second in the group, they will face England, the first in Group B. If the Tulips want to go further, they must win against Qatar in the final round. Note, it is a must, not just a try. Initially, many outside observers were optimistic about the Netherlands winning all 3 matches and advancing with 9 points, but no one expected Ecuador to give them a lesson. Of course, this involves the Dutch team's own technical shortcomings and Ecuador's united effort and tremendous energy. Chapter 569. The first round of the group stage of this World Cup saw quite a few surprising outcomes, including Saudi Arabia's comeback against Argentina and Germany dropping points unexpectedly. Up to now, in the second round, only the Netherlands has drawn, resulting in a minor upset. Belgium expressed that this should not have happened. Therefore, in less than a day, the aging but not yet dead Belgian team lost 0-2 to the purely footballing Morocco. Before the match, many people did not have high hopes for Morocco. They drew with Croatia in the first round. But many fans and journalists unanimously believe that the Croatian team did not show their full strength in that match. If they had truly exerted themselves, it would have been simple, right? Similarly, Belgium and Croatia are teams of the same level, so there were not many differing opinions on Belgium winning. The discussion centered around how many goals Belgium could score. However, no one expected it. Hazard's form has dropped, The dribbling king from Chelsea has now become a nobody. Center forward Batshuayi is even worse than Hazard. He is practically a traitor. Belgium frequently conceded goals under Morocco's aggressive pressing, with Ziyech initiating attacks and Mazraoui and Hakimi frequently pushing forward to perform a two-winged assault. Chapter 570. With the top two positions in Group A decided, it was time for Group B. Interestingly, before the match between the Three Lions and Wales, Ake specifically mentioned Chen Chen on his social media account. We successfully advanced to the knockout stage of the World Cup, which is the best reward for our entire team. Of course, our goal is not just to advance. We want to reach the final and restore the glory of the Netherlands. I hope Chen Chen can reach the final, as that way I can defend against him. Ha ha ha. Oh, it's a pity that since we finished first in the group, we can't face them in the same half of the draw. Otherwise, I would have delivered a crushing blow to England in the round of 16. Ake's remarks rekindled long-buried hopes among many Dutch fans. Fans began to leave their supportive comments under this post. After commenting, they rushed to share the news, and more people started to pay attention to this information. In this situation, Ake's statement quickly topped the trending searches in various regions. As one of the parties involved, Chen Chen soon caught wind of it. Chapter 571. After the goal was scored, the Three Lions made substitutions. Chen Chen and Grealish came on, while Rice and Harry Kane were rested. This move pushed Rashford to the center-forward position, Grealish to the left, Foden remained on the right, and Chen Chen played as an attacking midfielder, forming a familiar 4-2-3-1 formation. Wales also made changes. Future Tottenham's 40 million man Brennan Johnson came off the bench. Last season, Johnson performed quite well at Nottingham Forest, scoring 18 goals and providing 10 assists in 49 matches. However, last season, Forest was dominating in the championship, so his stats can only be considered average. He can certainly make the Wales squad, but if he wants to serve the Three Lions, he would absolutely not get into St. George's Park. Brennan Johnson replaced the Red Dragons' left winger Daniel Johnson, who was once a key player at Leeds United but has now rapidly declined in ability and can only serve as a substitute for Fulham. After Chen Chen came on, the match situation became increasingly unfavorable for Wales. In the 79th minute, Chen Chen cut inside and curled a shot, which was palmed away by Danny Ward. Chapter 572. While Wales faced England, many eyes were also on the Iran versus USA match. Before the match started, fans were already heating up online. Everyone unanimously believed that neither team's coach needed to do much motivating. In one sentence, if there were fewer than 8 yellow cards, it meant both teams were holding back. Although Qatari authorities had warned before the match not to play too aggressively and asked for a little restraint, who cares about Qatar when real tempers flare? As a result, many fans who enjoy betting became excited. This is a classic case of enemies meeting, and the tension is palpable. What does this indicate? It indicates that the number of goals should be massive. I'll throw out a number: 30 million. Winner takes all. In no time, news about betting big started to spread wildly across social platforms. However, when the match results were really in front of the fans, everyone was furious. Iran only lost to the Americans by a small margin of 1 goal, and no major outcomes that the outside world had anticipated occurred. Goodness, it was said that the match between the Three Lions and Wales was deceiving the fans, but at least they scored 2 goals, which could be considered leveling the initial odds. Chapter 573. After finishing the interview, Chen Chen returned to the locker room. However, while the interviews inside the venue had ended, those outside were still ongoing. Southgate made a rare appearance at the post-match press conference with Chen Chen and Rashford. It is worth noting that there is no limit on the number of players who can participate in post-match press conferences for international tournaments like the World Cup. If possible, an entire team could attend. This is also why fans often see the head coach answering questions halfway when 7 or 8 players come up singing and dancing, happily holding bottles of wine. If there were truly limitations on the number of players allowed on stage, could they still come up? Of course. If an entire team were to come up, the press conference would become very crowded. Therefore, to avoid turning the press conference into a noisy street market, everyone generally follows the league's regulations and brings 1 or 2 players to attend. If it's 1 player, it is usually the team's head coach or a key player. If it's 2, it's typically the best player of the match and the player who scored the most goals. Interestingly, the player who scores the most goals is usually also the best player of the match, so fans often see 1 player attending the post-match press conference instead of 2. Chapter 574. Later, Chen Chen posted a 9-square grid on his social media account, which included photos with Prince William and Ambassador Zhou. As the saying goes, a good dish is not only appreciated by people, but also attracts buzzing flies. Under the post, Chinese fans expressed their gratitude to Chen Chen, looking forward to him using his influence to do something for Chinese football. Of course, one must act within their capacity, and there is no pressure. However, this eager expectation turned into sarcastic remarks from some islanders towards Chinese fans. Chen Chen believes that he is Chinese in life and death. Although he is currently wearing the Three Lions jersey, his heart still belongs to China. Therefore, he felt quite angry upon seeing such messages. So, he decided not to immediately refute those scoundrels, but instead posted a poem in Chinese. Unable to sleep yesterday, I wrote a poem for everyone to appreciate. Yesterday, at Huaqing Pool, tonight climbing the mountain has a connection to Jiangjiesher. Deeply regretting my legs are slow, the farthest is Xi'an. Anyone who has gone through 9 years of compulsory education in China knows who Chen Chen is referring to. And in an instant, Chinese fans became extremely excited. Chapter 575. The news of Denmark's unfortunate exit left many fans feeling very disappointed and hard to imagine. But life must go on, and the matches must continue. The next dishes served were the matches between Italy and Argentina and Saudi Arabia against Mexico. In this match, Udoki, who had been on standby for the first 2 rounds, finally got a rare starting opportunity. In fact, it was about time for Udoki to be promoted to the starting position. With Emerson, who is 28 and valued at only 10 million, and 30-year-old Baragi having proven they cannot bear the heavy responsibility, what reason is there to continue using them? Additionally, DeMarco's mistakes have been too frequent. No matter how dedicated a player is to the national team, when they are in such a downward spiral in form, it is time to take a break and adjust. Unfortunately, in the first 2 matches, Mancini only made timely choices regarding the center-back positions, like allowing Bottoni and Acerbi to start 1 match each, but did not make many changes in the fullback positions. DeMarco started twice, while Emerson got a chance to come off the bench in the first match against Mexico, and Udoki did not get to play at all. Chapter 576. It is noteworthy that after scoring, Martin did not show much joy. Many of his teammates felt similarly. It seemed that all they felt was a sense of relief. The joy of scoring? Not much. This was because the team that Mexico lost to was Argentina, which put them at a disadvantage in their mutual record. Therefore, Argentina had to win from Mexico to have any chance of advancing. Meanwhile, the score was still Italy 1, Argentina 0. So, under the premise that their mutual record against Argentina was unfavorable, even if Ochoa performed brilliantly, stopping and shooting to get double figures, it would not change the outcome. They still had to exit. Just when everyone thought that this group stage would see Italy and Argentina advance safely, Donnarumma suddenly made a big mistake. In the 39th minute of the match, Donnarumma misjudged a play, giving the opponent a set piece. Messi took the free kick himself. The Argentine star, under immense pressure, treated the free kick like a penalty and scored effortlessly. The score was equalized at 1-1. It seemed that Mexico's spring was just around the corner. Chapter 577. After the match against Croatia, De Bruyne accepted an official interview. Unfortunately, our World Cup journey has come to an end. Before the tournament started, I told Chen Chen to meet in the finals, but now, I sincerely wish them all the best in reaching the finals and then winning the championship. Croatia? Yes, they were the better side. Football matches require not only scoring goals, but also doing everything possible to avoid more mistakes on the defensive end. Clearly, they did better. Competing against Modric felt great. He is a unique world-class midfielder. So go for it, Luka. Keep pushing forward. Next World Cup, I will give it my all. Of course. The premise is that if I'm still playing. While De Bruyne's earlier words were quite passionate, the sudden melancholy at the end made those around him fall silent. 4 years can be neither long nor short. A player aiming to participate in the World Cup will experience 4 complete professional seasons. And the issues of injuries and declines in skills and physical condition are something everyone must consider. Chapter 578. The first place in this group is the Portuguese team with 2 consecutive victories. The second is Ghana with 1 win and 1 loss. The third is South Korea with 1 point, but a superior goal difference. And the fourth is Uruguay with a disadvantage in goal difference. In the match against South America, Portugal chose to rotate their lineup, with players like B. Silva, Leao, Ruben, B. Fay, and Goncalo Ramos sitting on the bench. Portugal's intention is clear. After confirming their first place in the group, they want their main players to rest and prepare well for the knockout stage. For South Korea, this is truly a stroke of luck amidst misfortune. Because, as the saying goes, a person's success depends not only on individual effort, but also on the course of history. If they had faced a fully powered Portugal in the first round, the men's baseball team, led by Son Heung-min, could have surrendered early. But now it's the third round. This is a Portugal team with nothing to lose. Anything is possible. On the other side, Ghana and Uruguay are almost grinding their back teeth to dust. The reason Uruguay is biting down so hard is that they never expected to end up comparing goal differences with South Korea. Chapter 579. Of course, that's how the World Cup is, with old faces leaving and new ones emerging. In the last two group matches, Brazil is playing against Cameroon, and Cameroon's young winger Mbemu, who was once teammates with Chen Chen at Brentford, has become the focal point of this match. From the surface, Mbemu gives off a very mature vibe. However, the reality is that he is only 22 years old. As a member of the French U21 team and holding dual nationality with Cameroon, Mbemu could have smoothly progressed to the training center at Clairefontaine through the U20 and U21 national teams. But in the end, he couldn't go to the French training center and instead went to Cameroon's training base. There are many reasons for Mbemu's decision to join Cameroon, but the main one is that the then president of the Cameroon Football Association, Eto'o, personally went to London to call him, with the president making such efforts. And since Mbemu felt he lacked competitiveness in the French senior men's national football team, where he would mostly be a substitute, he ultimately chose to represent Cameroon. Facing Brazil this time, Mbemu feels very much like a young man who should not be underestimated. Chapter 580. December 4th is destined to be a memorable day, as it marks the first day of a knockout stage. The first knockout match is between the Netherlands and the USA, and the second match is Italy against Australia. England's match is scheduled for the third game, where their opponent is Senegal, who defeated Ecuador and Qatar. To be honest, Senegal's situation is not much better than that of Ecuador and Qatar, because facing England, they are likely to stop here. Based on this, Senegal, which is not favored by many, has received a lot of online criticism. Some say the host nation should advance. After all, they have invested both money and effort. Others argue that there are too many slots for African teams, and when the USA, Canada, and Mexico expand, their quota will rise to 95, allowing around 100 African teams to qualify, making the World Cup group stage completely diluted. First of all, the idea of letting the host nation into the knockout stage? That is certainly unreasonable. Of course, if enough money is spent, it's not impossible. Qatar this time just hired the wrong mercenaries, getting a bunch of average-level players. Chapter 581. On the evening of December 5th, at the Gulf Stadium in Doha, the buses for England and Senegal rolled into the underground tunnel. In fact, Southgate wanted to field a semi-strong lineup primarily to save players' stamina for later matches against France or Argentina. But after much consideration, Southgate ultimately decided to field the full-strength team. The Factory of League of Legends once said they were already paying attention to their MSI opponents, and what happened later is known to everyone: the final defeat. Missing out on the MSI stage. Southgate, of course, didn't know about the Factory situation, but the reasoning is similar. He certainly didn't want to be mocked as a representative of arrogance and blindness. Therefore, Southgate directly fielded the strongest lineup. A very conventional 4-2-3-1 formation, with Kane, who played all the group matches at the front. One can only say that the England captain is indeed durable in the three attacking positions. Chen Chen is in the center, Grealish on the left, and Saka on the right. The double pivot consists of Rice partnering with veteran Captain Henderson. In the second group match against the USA, Henderson's performance proved he still has the ability to hold his place in the team, though his playing time needs to decrease. Chapter 582. Because the main referee hadn't arrived yet, Chen Chen quietly closed his eyes. This doesn't mean he was avoiding the camera aimed at his face. The simple reason for closing his eyes was to calm his emotions. It's the World Cup knockout stage. To be honest, whether before or after the time travel, no player from China or of Chinese descent has stepped onto this stage. Even the strong 2002 national team could only leave with 3 losses and regrets. Now, Chen Chen has the chance to step onto this knockout stage. How can that not be exciting? Sports commentators like Jurgen and Zhang Lu stated that this small step for Chen Chen is a giant leap for Chinese players. He has set an example for Chinese players, proving that the World Cup is not a distant stage, but is very close at hand. He Wei from Zhuang TV spoke quite officially. analyzing and discussing the future direction of a national team, starting from the youth training phase and the integration of youth learning and football training. Honestly, many people have thought about this issue, but as long as the Football Association maintains a very bloated and redundant array of various institutions, Chinese football will never improve. In simple terms, it's about if I succeed, it's my credit. If I fail, it's not my fault. Chapter 583. Of course, this statement is somewhat ambiguous. For example, Rice is very good at taking set pieces and long-range shots, but at this stage, he hasn't mastered them yet. At the Gulf Stadium, Saka's slightly off-target shot made the Senegalese feel like they had narrowly escaped death. Cisse, Senegal's head coach, was the first to react, quickly signaling his players near and far to run forward quickly. There is still a slight chance for a counterattack. It must not be wasted. However, the three lines' defensive speed is also very fast, and Senegal's desired counterattack did not materialize. In the 5th minute, England quickly pushed the ball into the front area. Chen Chen, in the middle, passed the ball to the right. Repeating the same trick, Saka got the ball again. However, this time Saka couldn't move the ball as comfortably as Senegalese players. Wingers are number 18 and defensive midfielder Nampalys Mendy number 6 closed in on him. With no choice, Saka had to play a safe back pass. Although Chen Chen and Saka are not teammates of the same club, with this back pass, Chen Chen understood what was happening on the right flank. The right side could not break through. Chapter 584. Koulibaly, closest to Henderson, quickly raised his hand to signal for an offside situation. However, the linesman did not respond. This World Cup has introduced a semi-automated VAR system, so when the assistant referee did not immediately raise the flag, Koulibaly was a bit uncertain whether Henderson was offside. Of course, now is not the time to delve into this issue. Regardless of whether he was offside, it was certain that a challenge had to be made. Without hesitation, Koulibaly went in with a tackle. Unfortunately, Koulibaly's action was still a bit slow. Henderson had already completed the motion to shoot, and Koulibaly only tripped to Henderson, who had already taken the shot. Unsurprisingly, a goal was scored again. The Gulf Stadium erupted in cheers once more. The commentators in the broadcast studio were stunned. This is the knockout stage. Brother, can you really be eliminated like this? The fans on-site and the coaching staff were equally bewildered. For Southgate, the opponent had already set up a 5-4-1 defensive formation, making it very difficult to score in a single attack. In this situation, Southgate kept shouting, urging his players not to be impatient and to take their time. Chapter 585. At this moment, Chen Chen's exceptional individual combat ability was perfectly showcased. The Chen family series of moves, including a bicycle kick and a nutmeg. Who could withstand that? In the Migu Sports Studio, despite having seen Chen Chen perform perfect individual showcases many times, both Zhang Jun and Zhang Lu were still very surprised and emotional. In front of 60,000 fans on-site and millions of viewers on screen, Chen Chen conquered everyone with a stunning shot after a nutmeg. Who could watch this without saying it was amazing? Wow, an astonishing shot, with 2 assists and 1 goal. Chen Chen was undoubtedly the only star at the Gulf Stadium today. Zhang Jun exclaimed. His form today was incredible, as stable as ever. After Zhang Jun finished, Zhang Lu immediately picked up the conversation, saying it was indeed very impressive. Whether it was the prepared back-to-goal defense and nutmeg idea, or the nutmeg against 2 defenders, Chen Chen executed everything perfectly. The broadcast began to replay the moment of the goal. Everyone pay attention. Before Chen Chen took the shot, he glanced at Kane and Grealish's positions. Chapter 586. Whether the gamblers who like betting on spinach are happy or not is unknown, but England fans are certainly satisfied. Thus, the clean and swift victory over Senegal led the 3 Lions to trend on social media worldwide, and the heat exploded. Henderson, Liverpool; Kane, Tottenham; Saka, Arsenal; and Chen Chen, Manchester City, all contributed, and Edouard Mendy, Chelsea, conceded for goals, leaving the Blues devastated. As for where the Manchester United stars are, oh, they're sitting on the bench. Where are France? Where's Croatia? Where is Germany? Oh, Germany has already been eliminated, so that's fine. Looking forward to France defeating Argentina and facing the 3 Lions. That will be a preview of the final. Kane has taken the center forward position to the extreme, willingly playing the supporting role, completely a herbivorous style of play. Chen Chen was too fierce, with 5 goals and 4 assists. The second place in the top scorers list is only 3 goals from Kane and Gakpo. So it seems there is no suspense for the Golden Boot and the Assist King. These players have performed excellently. Bellingham, who is 19 but not yet 20, Chen Chen, 19, Saka, 21, plus Foden, 22. Do they still need to play in next year's UEFA European Under-21 Championship? Just give out the awards directly. Chapter 587. The joys and sorrows between people are not interconnected. After witnessing the three lions cleanly shave Senegal's head, French fans and Argentine fans couldn't help but sigh. French fans lamented why their team had to secure first place in the group. Wouldn't it be better to finish second and have more influence in the upper half of the bracket? However, upon realizing that if they had advanced as the second-place team, they would face Italy and then encounter the Netherlands again, French fans fell silent. For Argentine fans, they only regretted why their team lost to Saudi Arabia. They could have faced a relatively weaker Italy as group leaders, but now they are matched up against France, which has a stronger attacking capability than Italy. And it doesn't stop there. After facing France, they would have to deal with England. How to play? There is no way to play. After all, the difficulties faced in the Copa America are still vivid. Of course, many Argentine fans expressed that revenge against England was just around the corner. However, before hoping to overturn England, the blue and white team still needs to confront the French rooster. Who lives or dies is still uncertain. Soon after England's victory over Senegal, just 2 hours later, the match between France and Argentina officially began. Chapter 588. On the French national team's side, Mbappe and Griezmann were very confident in interviews, stating that when facing England, they would ensure that Chen Chen and the Three Lions would end up going home in disappointment. As for the already defeated Argentina, who cares? About 3 hours after the match between France and Argentina ended, Chen Chen called Little Spider Alvarez. Chen Chen comforted Alvarez, who complained to him about the team's defensive shortcomings. According to Little Spider himself, the loss to Saudi Arabia was not just a simple upset. Argentina's defense indeed has issues. Chen Chen didn't say much in response, as saying too much could lead to mistakes. It was better to offer more comfort. As the conversation progressed, Little Spider expressed hope that Chen Chen could carry his hopes forward and return to the Manchester City training base after the winter break. Wanted to see Chen Chen holding the World Cup trophy. Chen Chen naturally accepted Alvarez's blessings. Besides that, Chen Chen was quite emotional. After being eliminated, the big brother's mentality could still be so stable. No doubt, that was impressive. Chapter 589. A party without drinks is like a eunuch going to a brothel, or a palace maid arriving in a kingdom of daughters. Only half buried can lead to a mouthful of saliva. Is it meaningful? Not really. However, it's better than nothing. Everyone gathered together to chat, eat some food, play games, and talk about all sorts of things, which would be considered a way to relax. On December 6th, the knockout matches continued. Pure Football Morocco faced off against the Netherlands in a direct confrontation. Before the match, everyone was undoubtedly optimistic about Spain. Although Morocco had first drawn with Croatia and then defeated Belgium, gaining significant momentum, in terms of strength, Spain was definitely stronger. After all, considering both the squad and the potential, Spain is the type of team that can advance with some effort. Many people are saying that Spain has let Germany down. And after being defeated by Japan in the group stage, Spain's anger is understandable. Moreover, winning against an aging Belgium and Croatia is nothing to brag about. One might think that Morocco defeated the youthful France and England. Given this, it's pretty much a certainty that the Netherlands will win. Fans naturally have high hopes, but it seems they've all forgotten that Morocco didn't just rely on luck to get here. Chapter 590, back to the match itself. The last match of the round of 16 is Portugal against Switzerland. When Switzerland is mentioned, many immediately think of the Gladbach goalkeeper Sommer. It's worth noting that during the World Cup, Sommer is a player for Gladbach, but after the World Cup, he will join Bayern Munich. The reason for this is that Neuer got injured while skiing during the short break after the World Cup. Bayern was already troubled by the mediocre performance of Maine, whom they bought for a hefty price, and now Neuer has also faced issues. Consequently, Bayern had to start searching far and wide for a suitable goalkeeper. The options in front of Bayern included Croatia's Livakovic, Leeds' Meslier, Paris Navis, Frankfurt's Trapp, and of course, the final winner, Sommer. Livakovic caught Bayern's attention purely because of his outstanding performance in the World Cup. In the match against Brazil, this Croatian goalkeeper left the Samba team dumbfounded. Chapter 591. There is something Chen Chen didn't mention, which is that the young Gonzalo Ramos should refrain from bringing unfinished drinks back during team dinners. That could lead to problems. There is a 2-day gap between the round of 16 and the quarterfinals, which is quite difficult for fans used to daily, intense matches. Fortunately, although there are no games, there are plenty of leaks. First, as the face of the England team, Chen Chen, along with star players from 7 other teams, filmed a promotional video for the quarterfinals. Interestingly, the star player from Portugal was not Cristiano Ronaldo, nor Bruno Fernandes or Felix, but Gonzalo Ramos, who scored a hat-trick in the last round. Chen Chen was quite surprised, as he thought FIFA would want to invite Ronaldo since Messi was already out. As for why Ronaldo isn't coming, mainly because he feels he needs to train harder. In the last match against Switzerland, he didn't score, and he won't allow himself to not score against Morocco. Chapter 592. Of course, some will say that Chen Chen doesn't deserve it. After all, Messi and Ronaldo only reached 94 points at their peak. Yet, Chen Chen's score is at 95 without even winning the Ballon d'Or yet. Is that reasonable? Probably not. Regarding this public opinion, FIFA Online officially stepped in to explain. Their main point was to express what the performances of Messi and Ronaldo were like when they were over 19, but still under 20. Once this was said, all the busybodies fell silent, because they suddenly realized that Messi and Ronaldo's stats and performances weren't as explosive as Chen Chen's. Chen Chen's overall score of 95 is well-deserved. Meanwhile, time passed as Chen Chen and his teammates played games together. Soon, the round of 14 arrived as expected. The match between Croatia and Brazil did not turn out to be the high-scoring showdown many imagined. The two teams ended up at a 0-0 draw after 90 minutes. Despite Neymar and Richarlison's stable performances and a few decent shots, especially Richarlison with 4 attempts, Croatia's defense ultimately proved superior. Chapter 593. As the match progressed, the second group of players came up. Before the match between the Netherlands and Italy, Dutch forward Gakpo stated that he would score more goals in this match to try to surpass Chen Chen and Gonzalo Ramos. In response, Italian fans were the first to express their dissatisfaction. Gakpo has only scored 3 goals so far, so to surpass Chen Chen, he would need to score 6. Seriously, are you trying to make a fool of us Italians? No way. In fact, for Italian players and fans, they certainly do not want the 3 Lions to win, nor do they want Chen Chen to win the Golden Boot. After all, they are competitors and victims, but faced with the potential advancement situation, they must stand in front of Chen Chen, play the role of the incompetent husband, and try to keep the Dutch at bay. Goals? You want to score 3? I will shatter your dreams. The match between the Netherlands and Italy was not as fiery as expected, but rather very conservative. The Netherlands set up a 3-4-1-2 formation, with the most forward players Depay and Burgess dropping back to defend, leaving only Gakpo up front to counterattack, essentially forming a 5-4-1 setup. Chapter 594. Currently, Chen Chen and Portugal's Gonzalo Ramos are tied for first place on the World Cup scorer list. However, Ramos has already been eliminated with Portugal, and for him, the best scenario is that key players, including Chen Chen, do not score, allowing him to share the Golden Boot with Chen Chen. But can things really go his way? Certainly not. First of all, Gakpo will definitely want to push forward. He did not score in the last round, so he still has 3 goals. And considering the next round is against Croatia, the Dutch forward has a chance to score. Whether he can score 2 or even 3 goals to surpass Chen Chen, no one knows. Secondly, besides Chen Chen and Ramos, who have 5 goals, the player with the next highest score is Mbappe with 4 goals. Currently, Dembele is still a fringe player. His skill level is far from explosive as it was in the 24-25 season. Besides Mbappe, Giroud also has 3 goals. With this, both Mbappe and Giroud have the potential to chase the Golden Boot. Thus, everyone is increasingly focused on the upcoming England versus France showdown. Chapter 595. Mbappe said in an interview with the Paris Youth Daily, defending against Chen Chen is not a task for 1 or 2 players. It requires the effort of our entire team. We need to unite. Upon hearing this, fans exclaimed, "Well said." In Paris, the usually self-reliant Mbappe surprisingly said this. Has the sun risen in the West? One of the senior figures in the French team, Varane, who has participated in the most finals, agrees with Mbappe's statement. He added that facing England has always been a very tricky matter, especially now that they have a powerful weapon like Chen Chen. Victory? I can't say we will definitely win, because Chen Chen will cause us a lot of trouble. Before the end of the 90 minutes, We must ensure enough focus and unity. Seeing his teammates discussing Chen Chen, Loris chose not to join in the praise and instead took a different approach by talking about Kane. Look at Kane. If Chen Chen is the sharpest knife in the England team, then Harry Kane is the bow hidden in the dark night. He can always deliver the most devastating blow to opponents. Chapter 596. Regarding the match between England and France, most people will definitely support the Three Lions a bit more, as their record is well documented. For instance, Guardiola publicly stated that he would cheer for his excellent disciple Chen Chen. Guardiola said, without any doubt, Chen Chen is undoubtedly the strongest player in this World Cup, and the strongest player naturally deserves to lift the trophy that suits him best. Before Spain was eliminated, Guardiola supported the Spanish team. At that time, he expressed his anticipation for the day when England and Spain would meet in the final. Looking forward to the battle between the world's best defensive midfielder Rodri and the world's best attacking midfielder Chen Chen. But unfortunately, Spain fell. As a result, Guardiola had to turn to support his proud student Chen Chen. It is worth mentioning that not only Guardiola, the Spaniard, supports Chen Chen, but also other Spaniards like Rodri, Laporte, and Ferran Torres have encouraged Chen Chen on social media, providing him with some public support. It is important to note that Ferran Torres only transferred to Barcelona during the winter window in January this year. Chapter 597. On the French side, Deschamps set up a 4-2-3-1 formation. The goalkeeper is Loris. The defensive line consists of Theo Hernandez, Upamecano, Varane, and Count. The two defensive midfielders are Rabiot and Tchouaméni. In the three attacking midfield positions, Griezmann is in the center, with Mbappe and Ousmane Dembélé on either side. The king covers the earth. Only our big Giroud. Former Arsenal and Chelsea player, now AC Milan forward Giroud occupies the center forward position. Speaking of which, Giroud is definitely one of the most underrated forwards in football. The peak market value of the French forward throughout his career is only around 30 million, but anyone with eyes knows that Giroud, who has scored 105 goals in 253 appearances for Arsenal, is definitely worth more than that. The reason Giroud's market value is so low is purely because the market does not view him favorably as an aging player. In other words, his remaining value is slightly low. Why do I say this? This is because Giroud showcased himself at Arsenal and Chelsea when he was already 28 years old. Additionally, modern football has increasing demands for center forwards. Just like Neuer leading the transformation of goalkeepers into sweeper keepers, it follows that the activity range of center forwards must also expand. Chapter 598. Beep. Who? After taking a deep breath, Chen Chen lifted the ball into the middle of the penalty area. Kane jumped up immediately, ready to contest for the header. Beep beep. The referee, Sampaio, blew the whistle. Kane was confused. No, I didn't commit an offensive foul. Looking back, it turned out that Stones and Count had both fallen to the ground, and the referee called the offensive foul. Loris, who got the ball, quickly urged his teammates to run forward, and then Loris kicked the ball long. Loris passed the ball to the left flank, evidently trying to find France's top star Mbappe. Today, Mbappe has been very active. Just now in defense, he forced Walker to only make a ground pass. However, to be serious, it seems that letting Mbappe take a long shot is much more threatening than Chen Chen's shot. Of course, as the saying goes, don't beautify the path you have never taken. If Walker had scored with a curling shot, one would have to say, wouldn't it be better to let Walker pass? Should we trust Loris's one-on-one save skills? Mbappe got the ball, but stuck without support. Mbappe lost the ball. After losing the ball, he quickly went for a counter-press. And the other French players who had just arrived also quickly cooperated for a counter-press. Chapter 599. Chen Chen is awesome. What new era leading talent competition? Not all. Chen Chen is the only standout. 666, I say the England dynasty. Looking at the excited fans in the stands, Chen Chen wildly waved his arms in response. Before the match, everyone said England might die a tragic death. So what about now? Now, they have nothing to say, right? The joys and sorrows between people do not resonate. On the other side, the French fans all looked very serious. They never expected that the sudden acceleration by the Three Lions at the start caught the team off guard. In a short period, the Three Lions completed multiple shots on goal, with Chen Chen taking 2 of them, and both were high-quality shots. If it weren't for Loris's decent form, France would have likely been overwhelmed. Like the French fans, Deschamps also wore a grim expression. To be honest, for France, As long as they can overcome the mountain that is England, teams like Morocco, the Netherlands, and Croatia would be easy to handle. But who would have thought that despite being very well prepared, they still couldn't hold on due to a moment of carelessness? Chapter 600. Originally, the task of defending against Mbappe was supposed to belong to Phillips, who was to form a front-and-back defensive line with Kyle Walker. But didn't Theo come up? Phillips had to signal Walker to move in. Walker would defend Mbappe, while Phillips would man-mark Theo Hernandez. To be fair, Phillips's arrangement has no issues. Switching defensive roles is normal. Sometimes, even center-backs and full-backs can switch targets. In this regard, the most familiar example to the public should be Arsenal's center-back Takahiro Tomiyasu and Callum Chambers. When Chambers pushes forward to participate in the attack, Tomiyasu will extend outward to set up a broader defense. If someone drives into the area at this moment, Tomiyasu will quickly close in, and the fast-recovering Chambers will shrink inward, taking up Tomiyasu's defensive position. Actually, this is also due to the height of the Calafirians. Like Takahiro Tomiyasu, is 188 centimeters tall. If it were someone else, the tactical effect might not be the same. Additionally, it's worth mentioning that besides Calafiri, Tomiyasu often collaborates with the Dutch player Timber for defensive switches. Chapter 601. Why did Loris panic? This is because his positioning leans towards the left side, which is towards Chen Chen's direction. It can only be said that the pressure Chen Chen is putting on Loris is far greater than that from Kane. And now, at an unexpected moment for Loris, Kane directly headed the ball in the opposite direction. The England captain aimed for the gap on Loris's right side. In this instant, not only did Loris panic, but the French fans who traveled with the team also panicked. Especially Macron, the most prominent French fan in the VIP area, was also flustered. Macron, who is too fond of mature women, ran his hand through his hair, slightly blocking his eyes with his arm, and was already a bit hesitant to look. Duong. A huge sound echoed throughout the stadium. Just when everyone thought the England team would expand the score gap to 2 goals, Kane's header, overly focused on the angle, failed to help the Three Lions score again, as the ball hit the post and bounced back. Quick-witted Loris hurriedly dove to make a second save. Phew! Woohoo! The French fans on site first let out a breath to ease their tense emotions. Chapter 602. So, the lamenting Ma Ning should just be content with being a substitute. After all, being a board official is better than being in the VAR office, right? Better than those referees watching the match at home. Gulf Stadium. After the ball returned to England's control, both sides tacitly reached a balance in the midfield area. The French team did not press the Three Lions high. But if the English players wanted to cross the halfway line and try to advance, the French rooster would definitely send players to defend. Thus, the match situation entered a relatively tense stalemate, where neither side could gain an advantage over the other. To be honest, this is a normal 90-minute match, with both sides having breakthroughs, but not many goals scored. If England could beat France decisively, or vice versa, that would be exaggerated. In the 40th minute of the match, just a few minutes before halftime, the Three Lions, who were originally playing Tai Chi with the French team, suddenly accelerated their pace. The ball was played to the left wing in the attacking area. Kim was pulling wide, and Ousmane Dembele came over to assist in defense. Dembele's seriousness is commendable, but how could he possibly defend against Kane? Chapter 603. The ball went in. Chen Chen. This miraculous man once again performed a stunning goal. In the studio, the great poet he started to shout hoarsely. This is a divine goal, one that no one could have imagined. Loris in front of the goal had done his best to save the situation, but ultimately fell short. We cannot understand what Loris was thinking when the ball crossed the goal line. However, we can see something from Chen Chen's teammate, particularly from Rice, who was standing on the edge of the penalty area, pulling his hair in shock. This is a moment where body flexibility was utilized to the extreme. Chen Chen, who scored twice, pushed the French team to the edge of the cliff. If it happened again, Deschamps would have to regretfully bid farewell to the World Cup stage. Woohoo! 7 goals. Currently, the most goals in a single World Cup in history is 13 by Fontaine. Since the format change in 1994, the most goals in a single World Cup is 8 scored by Ronaldo in the 2002 World Cup in South Korea and Japan. Fontaine's record is hard for Chen Chen to break, as the strength of the participating teams back then was too uneven. Chapter 604. To be honest, Loris suddenly found it hard to understand the situation at the start of the second half. In the locker room, Deschamps analyzed that the England side, being in the lead, would most likely focus on defense. But, at the start of the second half, the Three Lions displayed a mindset that was not rooted in defense. They continued the attacking approach from the first half. Deschamps' judgment was completely wrong. At this moment, a bold thought suddenly arose in Loris's mind. Mr. Didier Deschamps, you should step down and let Mr. Zinedine Zidane give it a try. Of course, Loris was only thinking this in his mind. If he were to say it out loud, would he still be able to have a career in French football? To be honest, the reason Zidane has not immediately returned to coaching after resigning is that he is waiting for his older brother Deschamps to step down. This summer, due to last year's European Championship defeat, the French Football Federation had a closed-door meeting with Deschamps. The content was quite simple, mainly about some military pledges. In fact, Zidane might not necessarily do well with the French team, as club and national team coaching are different. Even Tuchel himself has said that coaching a club and a national team requires completely different mindsets. Managing the locker room is far more important, while tactics are not the most critical. Chapter 605. The connection between Son and Kai is that Son Heung-min runs on the wing, Kane runs in the middle, and the two feed each other. To be honest, every player in Tottenham is a little genius. If Kane couldn't run fast, how could he possibly win the Premier League Golden Boot? Almost in an instant, Kane completed a series of actions, receiving the ball, flicking it, and advancing. The defenders Upamecano and Tchouaméni in the back couldn't stop Kane at all. Seeing this situation, the French fans on site suddenly panicked. It's Tchouaméni again. Dude, get it together. Without much extraordinary skill, Kane simply outpaced his opponent with speed. Then, before entering the penalty area, Kane completed his final shooting motion just as Upamecano was about to slide tackle. To be honest, Kane really wanted to carry the ball into the penalty area before shooting. That way, Upamecano would be cautious, and the defensive pressure on Kane would be much less. However, the opponent is not foolish. Would Upamecano just watch Kane carry the ball into the penalty area? Of course not. Therefore, the Bayern defender chose to slide tackle just outside the penalty area. Upamecano's action was so obvious that as long as Kane wasn't blind, he definitely wouldn't get tackled. Chapter 606. The situation on the field was completely under the control of the England team. French fans had to accept the fact that although France is invincible everywhere, when facing England, it still doesn't work. The match quickly resumed. Of course, before the battle continues, both sides need to make a substitution adjustment immediately. The physically exhausted Ousmane Dembélé and the underperforming Antoine Griezmann are substituted off, with Kingsley Coman and Marcus Thuram coming on. If it doesn't succeed, it will be a sacrifice. Deschamps is currently pursuing as many goals as possible. On the other side, Southgate has made a relatively conservative substitution adjustment, bringing on Kieran Trippier and Conor Gallagher while taking off Bukayo Saka and Jude Bellingham. Trippier will complement Luke Shaw, mainly partnering with Maguire and covering Shaw's position. One defender and one midfielder are swapped for a forward and a midfielder, indicating Southgate's intention to focus on defense. However, many people guessed wrong. Everyone thought that England would form a 5-4-1 defensive formation. But unexpectedly, Southgate's Three Lions once again interpreted possession football to the extreme in the 70th minute of the match. Speaking of Varane, at this moment, the former Real Madrid center-back, now Manchester United defender, is covering his face in deep self-reproach. They say that men don't shed tears easily, but when emotions run deep, tears cannot be stopped. Regaining his composure, Hugo Lloris, having pulled the ball out of the net for the fourth time, went over to comfort Varane. It's worth mentioning that Lloris had anticipated this defeat in the match and was psychologically prepared for it. To put it bluntly, at 30 minutes, not to mention the fans, even he had lost faith in the team. Despite the football world always saying that no matter the score, one must hold on until the 90th minute and embody the spirit of not giving up. It's like a student who dawdles in the classroom during finals. No matter how much time you give them, they can't write anything. And it will be better to leave early. The outcome is already predetermined, so it's easier to let go. So far in this World Cup, this has been England's best performance. They are killing it. The Three Lions are going wild. Could this year's final be England against the Netherlands? A battle of the disappointed? England is indeed terrifying. It feels like they are even more formidable than during last year's European Championship. Another missed opportunity. Mbappe has missed quite a few chances today. Since the European Championship last year until today's match, he hasn't missed many opportunities. Especially in the previous match against Denmark, he had 6 shots, and aside from one that went just over the crossbar, the other 5 were all on target. Denmark's Schmeichel blocked 3 of Mbappe's shots at difficult angles, but ultimately, he couldn't stop the French supercar that had completely unleashed itself. Regarding that match, Chen Chen was paying attention. Denmark did quite well, effectively limiting Giroud and Dembele, but Mbappe's performance was the key. Even though he missed multiple chances, no one at that time would think that he, the director, couldn't turn the tide. At a 1-1 draw, what fans could imagine was Mbappe descending like a divine soldier to help the French team score again and gain a stable advantage. And indeed, that is how it happened. However, today, at the Gulf Stadium, the frequently missing opportunities from director Mbappe no longer gave people the feeling that he could save the day. Speaking of the old master, when Elizabeth II passed away, English players playing in the Premier League went to London to participate in the public viewing at Buckingham Palace. Chen Chen, being a native of China, was not interested in such scenes. However, standing beside him, Kane and Foden were deeply moved. After all, Kane is a staunch supporter of making England great again. If Cromwell were to raise a flag and call for a rebellion against the monarchy now, Kane would definitely be the first to stab Cromwell with a gun. As for Foden, just by looking at his skin color, you can tell he has a standard white face, a proper white flag bearer. If it were a couple of 100 years ago, Saka and Rashford would have been. All right, the match has ended. Referee Sampaio has blown the final whistle. A 4-0 victory. The England team has advanced to the World Cup semi-finals. The defending champions, France, have stopped here, considering that among the teams in the semi-finals, only England has won a championship. While the others have never won the World Cup in the history of the tournament, I think we can start speculating now. Will England bring football home, with the old king being elevated and transformed into a powerful new king? At the Gulf Stadium, after the whistle blew, the players from both sides who had fought a whole match either stood with their hands on their hips, squatted on the ground, or lay flat. The quality of this match was very high. Aside from substitutions and a few tactical fouls, the rest of the time was very smooth. So it's quite normal for players to collapse on the ground after such a high-intensity confrontation. Today, Mbappe, who performed decently but lacked a bit of luck, stood silently with his hands on his hips. Chen Chen took the initiative to walk over and gave him a high five, followed by a hug as a gesture of respect. In fact, there was no animosity between Chen Chen and director Mbappe. On the contrary, since filming the promotional video, the two even felt a sense of regret for not having met earlier. To be honest, director Mbappe is quite a decent person. After going to Real Madrid, during the summer transfer window, he didn't forget his friend from his time in Paris. So they all went out together to eat, drink, and vacation. It's evident that Morocco's most affectionate Akraf is certainly among them. In this match, your performance was excellent. Phew, England truly deserves to advance. Chen Chen nodded in response. Regarding the news headline reported by Le Parisien, Chen Chen learned about it through social media, but he didn't react to it. Le Parisien has done this before. They evaluated Napoleon from Corsica in the same way. This can only be said that the old revolutionary area of Paris is best at sliding on their knees, and they slid down in less than 90 minutes. Probably faster than when they got rejected as art students. Although the England-France battle has completely come to a close, the online buzz hasn't diminished at all. On the contrary, due to the dramatic and contrasting scoreline, it has surged, gaining more traffic and attention than during the live broadcast. This traffic and attention can also be seen as compensation for Infantino. After all, sitting next to Macron and Sunak, his pressure is enormous. He is genuinely afraid that Macron would get angry and have a verbal dispute with Sunak. Both England and France are major countries, and being caught in between, he doesn't know whether to cry or laugh. In fact, Infantino has experienced this once before during the opening ceremony of the 2018 World Cup in Russia, when the Goose won 5-0 against Saudi Arabia. Chapter 6:12. The day after the match against England, the French team was already on a break. Along with them, the other 14 teams that lost in the semifinals were also on break. As everyone knows, Neymar quickly returned to Brazil to party on his yacht, while Argentina's Leo flew to Miami for business talks. Some might wonder, isn't Beckham in Qatar? If Messi flies to Miami, won't he be hard to find? Well, that's a misconception. Beckham only owns 10 of Inter Miami, while the other 90 is in the hands of billionaire brothers Moss. So, Messi can talk to Beckham. But in the end, it's the two major owners who finalize the details. Beckham can't make unilateral decisions. Now, Doha has become a place of sorrow for Messi, and the Argentinian certainly doesn't want to stay longer. In this case, it makes more sense for him to go directly to Miami to discuss transfer matters. This is the real direct hiring by the boss. As for Beckham initially bringing Chen Chen on board as the ambassador for the US, Canada, and Mexico promotion, that was mainly because the MLS and the US government gave their approval. Beckham was just a middleman. Chapter 613. First, let's talk about Manchester United. The Red Devils are preparing to rebuild Old Trafford. Yes, rebuild. They claim it's a renovation, but looking at the presentation, it certainly looks like a reconstruction. As for Chelsea, Bowley and his backers at Clearlake Capital have effectively taken over from Abramovich. Chelsea is set to spend lavishly on renovating or rebuilding Stamford Bridge. However, whether renovation or rebuilding, the difficulty of implementing Chelsea's plans is much greater than that of the Bernabeu or Old Trafford. The reason is simple. The Fulham area, where Chelsea is located, is known as one of London's affluent districts. They say the housing prices in the capital of China are high and hard to afford, but compared to that, buying a house in the capital seems more hopeful. The average housing price in the most expensive area of the capital, Xiqing, is around 1.2 million. In Fulham, 10, 15 million. Just think about it. If the houses in Xiqing can't be demolished, how can the houses in Fulham be demolished? Therefore, Chelsea is quite troubled by this. Stamford Bridge has a capacity of just under 42,000, which ranks only 9th among all Premier League teams. Not to mention whether this capacity aligns with Chelsea's identity as a Big Six team, just in terms of ticket revenue and additional commercial value. Playing a match means Chelsea incurs a loss. Chapter 614. After the match, the Dutch veteran coach Van Gaal was very excited. In front of the cameras, Van Gaal spoke with a trembling voice. "This is the happiest day of my entire coaching career. Our performance was not better than before. On the contrary, we had some unnecessary mistakes. Well, thankfully we withstood the pressure, and the Netherlands team was the better performing side. Yes, of course, we are hopeful of winning the championship. The probability is not 0, nor is it 100%, but we will strive for it." Speaking of England, Chen Chen is an exceptionally outstanding player. He is very powerful. However, football is a very team-oriented game. We have VVD, we have Ake, we have Frankie, so we are not afraid. On the contrary, we are full of courage. As for Morocco, I'm also looking forward to facing them in the final. They're the pride of all Africa, which is both comforting and astonishing. These two sentences show how important Chen Chen is in Van Gaal's mind. When talking about the three lions, the first person Van Gaal thinks of is Chen Chen. Kane? Sterling? Or maybe Bellingham. Van Gaal has no intention of mentioning any of them. Chapter 615. The competition between England and Morocco is not only on the field. Off the field, many fans and players expressed corresponding remarks on social media. Ashraf, who plays for Paris Saint-Germain, immediately pumped himself up on his social account. "We are Morocco. We are the pride of Africa. Afraid of defense? We have never feared anyone." Ziyech quickly distanced himself from Ashraf. He noticed that Hakimi seemed to be doing too well at Paris, and his character was becoming more like Mbappe's, confident and arrogant. The future Ziyech, who will play tricks on Romano, posted a video of himself accepting an interview with the team's reporter. In the video, Ziyech said, "Chen is currently the strongest striker, and besides that, he is also the strongest assist provider. We will defend against him closely. But that is difficult because the other players in the England team are also very strong. Just try to play the match. Failure is not scary. What is scary is our lack of courage to face it." It seems that the seemingly arrogant Ziyech was actually quite humble, which is completely different from Ashraf's statement. So, one should not judge people solely by their appearances. Chapter 616. Time quickly arrived at the evening of December 14th to accommodate European and American fans. The kickoff time for the semifinal was scheduled for 10 p.m. local time in Doha, which translates to 3 a.m. in China. Of course, this is also due to the fact that Doha's weather is too hot. Fans couldn't even enter the stadium, as the roads were still retaining high temperatures at 8 p.m. To exaggerate, they might just melt on their way there. Meanwhile, a significant event recently happened in China. That is, the pandemic restrictions have been lifted. This means that fans are in luck. They can watch Chen Chen lift the trophy amidst the alternating heat and cold. Speaking of this, the increase in Europe is definitely higher than in China. This is all thanks to the superiority of the European government systems, which don't treat people as people, and the medical costs are indeed exorbitantly high. Chen Chen has also recovered, and he looks energetic and strong, clearly indicating a robust physique. The match between the three lions and Morocco was still held at the Gulf Stadium, and regarding this, outside fans were saying, "Welcome to the England team's home ground." Chapter 617. This is not just idle talk. According to the MLS's own data report, apart from the head star players, all other players coming from Europe have had their salaries reduced. For example, Muller's salary dropped from 15 million euros to 6 million euros, and DePaul from $8 million to $5 million. In the entire MLS, European players coming here have all come with reduced salaries, with an average reduction of over 50. This is mainly because the MLS has a salary cap. Yes, you read that right. Following other mature North American leagues, the MLS has also implemented a salary cap. Of course, Ziyech during his time at Chelsea has the ability to earn this weekly salary. His strength should not be underestimated. After shifting his focus away from Ziyech, Chen Chen turned his attention to Akraf. Today, aside from Ziyech, the Three Lions mainly needed to pay attention to Morocco's two wingbacks, Mazraoui and Akraf, who could timely join the attack. Regarding Akraf, before the winter transfer window, when Manchester City urgently needed defensive players, Chen Chen recommended several players to Guardiola and the management, including Akraf, who was then playing for Paris Saint-Germain. Chapter 618. After a brief conversation, Jurgen and his partner stepped onto the commentary platform to prepare for the upcoming live broadcast. Chen Chen quickly walked into the player tunnel, as he was set to emerge from this tunnel again in a little over 10 minutes to welcome his first World Cup semi-final. Soon, during a pre-match warm-up at the Gulf Stadium, both teams' players had taken their positions in the player tunnel, including the young ball boys from Morocco, all the ball boys, who were very curious about Chen Chen, reached out their hands towards him. Naturally, Chen Chen was happy to oblige this small gesture. Sometimes, Chen Chen wonders whether any of the young ball boys he high-fived might grow up to become a new version of himself, just like Kane, who was once a ball boy himself. This rare experience also solidified Enzi's determination to play football seriously, and everyone knows what happened afterward. Today's starting captain for the Three Lions remains Kane. Enzi is positioned up front, with goalkeeper Pickford behind him, and Chen Chen in third. Chapter 619. Upon seeing Trippier's link-up with Chen Chen, the Moroccan fans at the scene immediately felt their hearts tighten. No, don't. That can't happen there. However, their prayers ultimately went unanswered, as Chen Chen, after receiving the ball, unleashed a sudden strike. Boom! Chen Chen's shot was powerful, as he aimed at the goal with an unstoppable momentum. Not only did Bunu appear to be on high alert, but even Chen Chen's teammate, the English star Kane, was startled. The speed, it could easily leave a mark, right? That's terrifying. To this, Chen Chen could only say it's not that safe. Just as Kane imagined, Bunu at the goal couldn't react much, apart from the fact that the ball was struck with such speed that it was hard to track with the naked eye. The main reason was the tricky angle of the shot, which Bunu couldn't simply dive to save. The Moroccan goalkeeper, a focal point admired by countless European teams, could only watch helplessly as the ball flew toward the top corner near his right hand. Was there any chance to block it? No. The ball slipped in from a dead angle, hitting the side, netting with a hissing sound. Chapter 620. The main reason for this is the courage that the current England football team has given to Morocco. In other words, this is the momentum brought about by their performance. With Ramos' whistle, the game quickly resumed. Cesar Ramos, a referee from Mexico, has an average level of officiating. At the start of this World Cup, during the third round of the group stage, when the Netherlands faced Qatar, Ramos gave the Netherlands a very ambiguous penalty opportunity, which caused dissatisfaction from Qatar. To say that the Qatari authorities were too clean, hosting a World Cup was purely a money-losing venture, and they never had any thought of trying to sneak into the knockout stage. Regarding Ramos, who made that controversial decision, the Doha government didn't even bother him. Otherwise, at least the opportunity to officiate the semi-finals would definitely slip away from him. After all, there are other referees in Doha, and to avoid suspicion between European and African teams, they could choose from South American and Asian referees, right? Of course, considering the AFC's recommendations of referees like Fagani and Jassim, using a Mexican referee would be better. Chapter 621. A gasp echoed through the Gulf Stadium. Then a round of applause erupted. Bunu, who securely held the ball in his arms, let out a sigh of relief, and nearby, Says quickly reached out for a hug with his good brother. Wow, what a great save. Bunu once again made a precise interception. England had many opportunities today and was expected to keep extending their lead, but Bunu's performance was indeed impressive. Of course, we can also see that England's ability to capitalize on opportunities is indeed much better than Morocco's. If I were to guess who would score the next goal, I wouldn't know which player would step up. but at least I can be sure it would be an England player. So, Coach Jean, what do you think? Jean Lu first responded with a hum, acknowledging Jean Jun's question. This time, he rarely started with a chuckle, but directly got to the point. I share your thoughts. The England team, having more ball possession, definitely has a higher probability of scoring. However, the football field is ever-changing, and anything can happen, right? Ha ha ha. Chapter 622. Was it a mistake caused by poor form? Or was it an impulsive, subconscious action due to being behind in the score and an unbalanced mindset? Everyone thought a lot, but no one considered that it was merely a tactical foul. Of course, this isn't their fault. The foul was simply too far from the goal. And with other Moroccan players behind, the Three Lions players truly couldn't imagine this, because it wasn't necessary. In fact, after the goal was conceded, Coach Regragui had already urgently briefed his players on several things. One of them was that they must do their utmost to defend against Chen Chen. If you feel it's necessary to commit a tactical foul, whether in the front or backfield, just do it boldly. Chen Chen is currently the engine of England's attack, the pivot, and the most critical figure. As long as he is contained, there will still be a chance to win and turn the game around. Conversely, if Chen Chen gets going, it would be over. Just think of how the French team was repeatedly breached. They lost because they didn't do well in defending against Chen Chen. A yellow card? Doesn't matter. It's just a reputation. In fact, from a certain perspective, if a yellow card can limit the opponent, Regragui would be very willing. Chapter 623. No, that's a dive. On the sidelines, Regragui was frantically explaining to the fourth official. No foul, none. Wong Defa. Hey, Mr. That bastard is diving. Seeing Regragui so agitated, the fourth official quickly signaled for him to calm down. At the same time, he warned Regragui that if he continued to curse, he would have the main referee show a card. Interestingly, while Regragui eased up a bit, Southgate took up the baton and started cursing as well. Fuck, this is a serious red card offense. What are the Mexicans doing? Show the card, a red card. When he saw Ramos only pull out a yellow card, Southgate spread his hands in disbelief. Just a yellow card? This is obviously a foul to stop a clear goal-scoring opportunity. The performances of the two coaches on the sidelines reflect the current situation on the field. In Morocco's penalty area, players from both sides surrounded Ramos, while Grealish, lying on the ground, was ignored by everyone. To be honest, in terms of work experience, it still leans towards Regragui being more seasoned. Previously, Chen Chen also had an experience of being fouled and lying on the ground. At that time, he was still a bit dazed and wanted to get up, only to be pushed down by a teammate. Chapter 624, it felt a bit like a penalty kick being saved and then scored on the rebound after the penalty was cancelled. Chen Chen took a clean and precise free kick to help the team extend their lead before halftime. The angle of his shot was just perfect. Although Bunu immediately moved to his left, he ultimately couldn't match Chen Chen's speed, accuracy, and decisiveness. The Moroccan goalkeeper could only watch helplessly as the ball flew past his fingertips, then accurately crossed the goal line, hitting the side netting and rolling down. Chen Chen's shot with an extreme curve helped the England team score again. The score is now 2-0, while scoring his second goal. Chen Chen also raised his total to 9 goals, surpassing Mbappe's record from 2018 for the most goals in a single World Cup. The 9-goal king is heading towards 13 goals. I think the 88-year-old Fontaine is likely watching this match, and Chen Chen is expected to break this record. What Jean Jun said is absolutely right. Football is Fontaine's second life, and at this moment, the former French international is indeed watching this match. Chapter 625, of course. On the field, the referee is the most authoritative person, and no one can argue against that. The Three Lions can be indignant, but they can only wait for a post-match appeal. In the player tunnel, the broadcast camera was focused on Chen Chen and Southgate. Boss, that should have been a penalty opportunity. Ramos should have seen it clearly. This incorrect decision is just ridiculous. Southgate quickly signaled Chen Chen to be quiet, as the camera was right in front. Chen Chen didn't care about that. You allow the referee to change his decision, but let us vent our frustrations, right? You manage everything, even the locker room? After Chen Chen finished speaking, Southgate stroked his chin and let out a sound. Then, Southgate said leisurely, "This is part of the game. Misjudgments, wrong calls, miscalls." Kane, who was walking ahead, heard the boss and Chen Chen's remarks, so he deliberately stopped and waited for the two. Immediately, Enzi interjected, "It's okay, Chen. Let's keep pushing in the second half. Let's try to crush them." Upon hearing this, Chen Chen nodded in agreement. Southgate then said not to underestimate the opponent. After that, The group briefly moved past this topic and discussed other matters. Chapter 626, after finishing the motivational speech, Regraggi immediately called out a few players. Hamd, Abd, and Amala, you guys go warm up first. Upon hearing Regraggi's words, a few players in the Moroccan locker room immediately stood up. It was obvious that they were the players Regraggi mentioned. Inisairai, who was closer to the locker room door, quietly sighed. Hamd is a forward. Abd can play as a forward as well as a shadow striker, and can even fill in as an attacking midfielder and right winger. Although Abd is likely to replace Zeech and Buffel, letting two forwards warm up means he will probably be substituted. To be honest, Inisairai didn't feel too dissatisfied. His performance today was indeed average, and being substituted is a perfectly normal occurrence. However, he felt that if his second World Cup journey were to end like this, it'd be a bit cruel, but there's nothing to be done. If you underperform, how can the coach keep you on the field? Isn't that just wasting a spot? Chapter 627 in Morocco's penalty area. Arnold, who missed a chance, silently covered his face with his hands. Liverpool's number 66 really couldn't bear to look at himself. Then, Arnold lowered his hands and turned to walk back. As he walked back, he didn't forget to give his teammates a thumbs up for encouragement. It can only be said that there is a significant gap between players. Not everyone can seize the hard-earned opportunities, and most can only regret missing out. The 59th minute. The anxious Moroccan players started to step up. With a change of direction to the right, Zeech once again evaded the defense. Then, Zeech quickly dribbled the ball forward. Today, he is the most threatening player for Morocco in the front line. After Onahi's substitution, he must support the attacking pressure on the right. With a forward pass, Zeech delivered the ball to Hamd. After receiving the ball, Hamd also dashed toward the baseline. The former RF player Hamd, after adjusting with a couple of quick steps, decisively chose to take a shot at the near corner. However, Pickford, who was in front of the goal, had already anticipated Hamd's choice, moving closer to the left post while spreading his arms to increase the possible defensive area. Chapter 628 meanwhile, on Chen Chen's side, as he walked off the field, the team doctor immediately checked his injury. Fortunately, the feedback from the doctor was positive. Chen Chen was fine, and Southgate could finally relax the tension that had been stuck in his throat. However, enough is enough. Southgate specifically walked over to the fourth official and other FIFA technical staff, stating emphatically that after the match, he would file a complaint to FIFA through the FA. Look at the garbage referees you chose. No skill, just trying to balance everything. What a farce. Seeing Southgate so seriously cursing, Chen Chen, who was about to unscrew a bottle cap to drink water, shook his head and then laughed. How could this match be the same no matter who you play against? Daring to question and complain while facing the risk of 2 yellows turning into a red can only be said to mean that old Suaw has no issues. As for being substituted, Chen Chen respects Naman's choice. With the match result already largely determined, resting early to prepare for the final is the priority. The game continues on the field. The three Lions intensified their attack. Chapter 629, the live broadcast of Migu has ended. But Zhang Jun and Zhang Lu still can't clock out. They need to rush to the sidelines to obtain second-hand interview information about the players. Why second-hand? Well, FIFA has the advantage of being close to the action. Their hosted matches cannot let other media overshadow them, right? Taking off his headphones, hurriedly grabbing his notebook, and calling for the camera operator, Zhang Jun first left the podium. Zhang Lu, being slightly older, couldn't bounce down as quickly. Zhang Jun really hopes to interview an England player, especially Chen Chen, if possible. If he can't squeeze to the front for an interview, he'll have to rely on luck at the post-match press conference and mixed zone. By then, the crowded media will fill the entire space, making it difficult for Zhang Jun to interview the players. Therefore, for Migu, the best scenario would be for Zhang Jun to complete the interview at the sidelines. However, things didn't go as planned. By the time Zhang Jun finally made it out through the players' tunnel, the sidelines were already packed with reporters. This was quite a challenge for Zhang Jun, who doesn't frequently participate in interviews. Chapter 630. Not long after, Nanmin and Chen Chen arrived at the post-match press conference. On stage, Regraggi was accepting questions. Facing the cameras, Regraggi took the initiative to shoulder the responsibility. The loss is on me. The players performed well. I believe in our better performance in the next major tournament. When asked about this World Cup journey, this is our historic first time reaching the World Cup semifinals, and also the first time for an African team to reach the semifinals. If you ask me if I'm satisfied, overall, yes, but I'm not satisfied with this semi-final match. The points of dissatisfaction are about my performance, not the players. I'm just not satisfied with how I played. I'm very grateful for the support from the fans. I noticed that before the match ended, when the outcome was clear, the fans in the stands didn't leave early, but stayed until the end to thank the players together. I'm very thankful for them. It is because of their encouragement and support that Morocco could make it to the semi-finals. Everyone, including the fans present and those far away in the capital Rabat, are wonderful, and they deserve all the praise. Chapter 631, Three Lions versus Dutch Tulips. Whoever wins will be the new king. Wow, some stayed up late. The king of football, Chen Chen. In the face of absolute strength, even pure football can't do much. The field was filled with wild whistles and severe fouls. Such a Morocco doesn't deserve respect. Rice is truly a great player on both ends. As Chen Chen moved closer to the front attacking position, Rice took on some midfield linking tasks and defensive duties at the back. What a capable star. The Netherlands once again reached the finals, but unfortunately, the famous trio from years ago is missing. Fun fact, the ultimate image of African teams is represented by the French team, yet in the previous round, the French lost more miserably than today's Morocco. So, if Morocco wants to learn from the French team, they might as well just roll up their pants and ask at the knee. Reflections. Chen Chen is too strong. The referee is too blind. Without a great general in Shu, Liao Hua acts as the vanguard. If European referees couldn't participate, would it even be possible for the drug lord referee to officiate? Exaggerated. Too exaggerated. A midfielder actually scored 9 goals. 14 matches in the quarterfinal scored 4. In the semifinals 3, so in the final, will it be 2? Chapter 632, the reasons why Lavia and Mayer couldn't seize the opportunity are simple. Their skills aren't up to par. Of course, this is reasonable, as they are both substitute players. It's a bit awkward to mention. But today's match against Morocco was Mayer's first start. In the post-match data panel, we can see that Mayer has appeared 7 times with only 1 start, averaging a pitiful 13 minutes of playtime. If he hadn't started this match, his playing time would have been under 6 minutes. Like him, Lavia also only has 1 starting appearance, which is today. One can only say that in this third-place match, whether it was the director, fans, or Croatia's coach Dalek, they all had an indifferent attitude. If you give me third place, I'll take it. If not, then forget it. Like Dalek's choice, Regraggi also utilized several bench players. Frankly speaking, for stars like Zeech and Modric, making it to the starting lineup is just a matter of course. To put it bluntly, it is the team that needs them, not the other way around. However, for players like Croatia's Lavia and Mayer, and Morocco's Hannes and Shabiri, being able to start is a tremendous blessing, as they are uncertain about where they will be in the next World Cup. Chapter 633. With the end of the third-place match, the last game of this World Cup has finally arrived. World Cup Final Preview. England versus Netherlands. World S number 1 versus World S number 1 defender, Chen Chen or Van Dijk, who will lift the final trophy. Team report. Scoring 7 goals without conceding, Netherlands. Are you scared? Blue Moon Derby. Led by Chen Chen, Manchester City's midfield and forward players versus Ake and Gronbech. Migu Sports will continue to broadcast this match live for you. As one of FIFA's official partners in the Huaxiao region, Migu Sports has secured a great media seat, a position on the same platform as the official broadcast camera. Not to mention, at least from a visual perspective, it is certainly much better than other seats. After all, the official chose to set up the broadcast from this position. How could it be bad? Speaking of live observations, we must mention a short video Migu Sports made before the match. Migu Sports interviewed many fans on site in Doha, and nearly 40 of fans expressed support for England to win. About 25 of fans said it didn't matter who won, as long as it contributed to an exciting match. Chapter 634. Compared to La Liga, the actions in the Premier League are evidently larger. Black feeding the dog. Trossard transfers to Arsenal, with reported fees reaching €24 million. Turning around in London, Chelsea midfielder Jorginho transfers to Arsenal, with a maximum transfer fee of €12.2 million. Arsenal has bought a forward and a midfielder, clearly aiming to make an impact in the second half of the season. In comparison, Chelsea's moves are even more dramatic. An official announcement is imminent. Benfica's midfielder is about to join Chelsea, with a transfer fee between $1 billion and $3 billion. Another Ukrainian in the Premier League. Modric has joined the Blues for a transfer fee of €70 million. Has Stamford Bridge struck gold? The Blues have successively announced the signings of Maduk, Gusto, and David Fofana. The total transfer fee exceeds €80 million. Chelsea's big spending has stunned teams in Serie A and League One, right? This is the winter transfer window. You must have mistaken it for the summer window. In response, Chelsea owner Bowley just smiled and said nothing. Stamford Bridge is poor. It's hard to rebuild and renovate here. But spending some money to buy players is still something the Blues can afford. Chapter 635. As the bus slowly drove towards Lusail Stadium. Chen Chen recalled the scene when he first joined Manchester City. He remembered that day, also sitting on the bus, with the weather in Manchester being quite hot. He clearly saw a well-proportioned girl outside the bus window, transforming into a merciful goddess, directly lifting her shirt. However, the sunlight that day was too dazzling. By the time Chen Chen wanted to take a good look at the curves and delicate veins, the girl had already put her shirt down. To be honest, the girls encountered in bars and nightclubs always gave a somewhat cheap feeling, while the exuberance outside the stadium was just right. It's just a pity that he didn't pay close attention, and now it only remains a vague impression. Seeing Chen Chen staring out the window in a daze, Kane elbowed him to pull him back from his daydream. Then Enzi said, "Do you remember the Euro final?" Huh? Chen Chen was a bit surprised. Why was the captain bringing this up? But he quickly responded, "Of course, I remember clearly. We won the championship. That day was the happiest day of my life." Chapter 636. Generally speaking, this task falls to a well-known star or retired player from the country of the previous champion. In 2018, at the World Cup in Russia, the trophy was escorted to the final venue by Germany's captain Philipp Lahm and Russian supermodel Natalia Vodianova. However, there are exceptions. For example, before the 2014 World Cup final in Brazil, the trophy was escorted into Maracana Stadium by former Brazilian star Pelé, rather than a player from the 2010 champion Spain. To be honest, this is a bit against the rules. But considering that Pelé is undeniably the king of football, having him is fine too. Moreover, Pelé escorting the trophy to the final venue means that he is willing to come. If someone is unwilling to come, it wouldn't matter who you invite. Soon, 1 hour before the match, the closing ceremony of the Qatar World Cup began. The players from England and the Netherlands went outside to warm up early, leaving the remaining time until the match starts for the program team. The opening of the closing ceremony featured a local Qatari in a white headscarf singing. Chapter 637. Good evening, viewers in front of the TV and streaming platforms. Welcome to continue watching this World Cup final battle in the Migu Sports live broadcast room. I am today's commentator, Jean Jun. After Jean Jun introduced himself, Zhang Lu immediately took over the conversation. Hey. Hello, everyone. I'm Zhang Lu. Jean Jun nodded and continued. For the two teams participating today, England and the Netherlands, the championship is just a step away. Oh, we can see Zidane, who brought the trophy onto the field, staying behind to take a photo with the referees and the two team captains. Zidane left Real Madrid last summer, and currently, this French legend is enjoying his time at home, based on Deschamps' recent performance. It is not ruled out that Zidane may lead the French team in the European Championship qualifiers next year. Jean-Louis responded with a fume. And sounds. Coach Zhang began to share his understanding. Getting kicked out with a 0-4 score, that's definitely hard to take. Chapter 638. Additionally, due to Van Dijk encountering Chen Chen several times in the league, as well as Aken Gravenberch being teammates with Chen Chen, the Dutch team has come to realize how terrifying Chen Chen truly is. A six-sided monster like him actually exists in football. It's quite a headache. Therefore, based on this, Van Dijk reiterated the coaching staff's defensive requirements regarding Chen Chen, which is to do whatever it takes to stop him. A player asked Van Dijk if that meant fouling at all costs. Upon hearing this, VVD fell silent. Ake and Gravenberch tried to mediate, stating that it wasn't necessary. Manchester City's aspirations for championships across all fronts this season still rely on Chen Chen's help, which is crucial for both of them being able to continue enjoying the spoils. Finally, after Van Dijk took a deep breath, he set a tone for the level of defense. Try not to foul. If it really comes to having to foul, then so be it. 3, 2, 1. As the countdown echoed throughout the stadium, the match officially began. Don't ask why there was no iconic beep sound. Amidst the deafening cheers and shouts, the whistle sound was insignificant, and the microphones on the sidelines couldn't capture it properly. Chapter 639. In the gaze of all the fans present, the ball passed over several Dutch defenders and landed accurately at Grealish's feet. A long pass that crossed more than half the field. At the same time, Kane immediately chose to squeeze inside, aiming to create a good receiving route in the front and a potential space for a second ball. Van Dijk followed Kane closely, believing he could defend against Enzi. But what about Grealish? Dumfries rushed over, and Timber was also ready to cover. However, in Grealish's eyes, their movements were still too slow. Bang! It is well known that there's a saying in football: if the heavens have feelings, they will also grow old, encountering Hart with a kick. This time, Grealish was very willing to imagine Noppert as Hart. After all, both their names have tin them. No matter if it works or not, just take a shot first. In an instant, the ball flew towards the goal guarded by Dutch goalkeeper Noppert like a cannonball. Chen Chen's outstanding performance seemed to make the Dutch players forget about the prowess of the $100 million man, Grealish. Chapter 640, Lift Your Heads. It's just one goal conceded. Now do what you're supposed to do. Remember, maintain the zonal defense. Soon, both teams returned to their respective halves. The Three Lions fans on site were still singing passionately. For them, they were generally satisfied with this goal, but if they had to point out something less than perfect, it would probably be that the team did not achieve the desired breakthrough effect in the designated areas and failed to penetrate the baseline area for tactics. Because Chen Chen's shot somewhat took advantage of the opponent's lack of attention, and afterwards Grealish's shot also had a bit of a miraculous feel to it, as he capitalized on Noppert's insufficient hard strength and poor positional choice. If they had really set up to play, the Netherlands might not have conceded so quickly. But that's football. Luck and skill coexist, and laughter and frustration can change in an instant. After the match resumed, the trailing Dutch team began trying to launch an attack. In the 7th minute of the game, Frenkie de Jong took the ball in the middle and chose to actively push forward. Today, de Jong's positioning was aimed at Chen Chen, but due to the team's initial focus on defense, de Jong had no choice but to form a double defensive midfield with Gravenberch. Chapter 641. Everyone's eyes widened. Countless gazes were directed at the young man, sliding near the corner flag. After deceiving Van Dijk and Noppert, Chen Chen sent a shot towards the left side of the goalkeeper. After completing the shot, Chen Chen didn't look back, because this was a guaranteed goal, one that even a god could not stop. So, celebrate freely. The ball is in. Unimaginable. This was a goal full of individual heroism. The goal from Chen Chen, his 10th in this World Cup. A phenomenal midfielder was about to dominate European football. The Lusail Stadium erupted in extreme fervor. The Three Lions fans were going crazy, leading by 2 goals in the final. Could it be? Compared to the madness of the fans on site, the commentators broadcasting live were a bit more restrained. But restraint was only relative to the fans. In the Sky Sports studio, in the ESPN studio, including commentators like Jean June and Hiwei on site, all eyes were wide open, looking incredulous. Then, one by one, the commentators began to roar hoarsely. Chapter 642. On the sidelines. Van Gaal gestured downwards with his finger and then pointed towards the 2 sidelines as a command. Van Dijk and de Jong nodded, understanding Van Gaal's thoughts. England's tiki-taka style of play is learned from Spain, and more specifically, it should be said to be learned from Guardiola. After Guardiola came from Spain to England, he also brought this tactic across the English Channel, which led to mixed reviews about him in the football world. On the positive side, it is said that he has changed football and the landscape of professional leagues. On the negative side, it is said that Guardiola's style has ruined football and the diverse football philosophies. But regardless, Guardiola is definitely a famous coach who will be remembered in football history. Speaking of Guardiola, one cannot help but mention the Dutch father, Cruyff. Extending from that, the Netherlands had so many top stars and coaches skilled in possession play. How could they not employ this tiki-taka? So, Van Gaal's meaning was very clear. Create space, pay attention to midfield connections, and compete with England in short passes. Chapter 643. In the Lusail Stadium, staff began to clean the field, and the grass was also being watered for maintenance. Unlike the Three Lions fans who were still cheering and singing, the Dutch fans fell into complete silence. They had hoped the team would put on a good show against England, but what was the result? They ended up being humiliated with a score of 30. A disgraceful 30. With this, Chen Chen comfortably raised his goal tally to a terrifying 11 goals. It's unlikely anyone before him has achieved this, as Fontaine scored 13. But to say no one will surpass him in the future, at least until Chen Chen retires, there shouldn't be many who can break that record. However, the next World Cup will expand to 48 teams, so who knows? In the Netherlands locker room, the most seriously injured Noppert sat down dejectedly. Van Dijk and Gakpo sitting next to him also looked frustrated. In the first half, the overall performance of the Dutch team was quite average. If you were to say whether anyone stood out, it would naturally be meaningless. The current goal for the Netherlands is to score, 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 not to share the blame. Chapter 644. After Chen Chen completed his hat trick, Southgate immediately signaled to the fourth official that he wanted to make substitutions. Kane and Grealish came off, while Trippier and veteran Henderson came on. Chen Chen was pushed to the front, and he would form the forward line with Saka, with Chen Chen being the main focus in attack. In the 67th minute of the match, the Netherlands pressed forward. As for the possibility of comeback, the Netherlands no longer cared. Now, they just wanted to score one to salvage some face. Bang! Gakpo and Koopmeiners executed a wall pass, and after seeing Bergwijn's run, he immediately passed the ball to him. The moment Bergwijn received the ball, Maguire quickly raised his hand to signal for an offside. But the assistant referee did not raise the flag. Bergwijn was not offside. Subsequently, Bergwijn sent a horizontal pass inside, and the incoming Gakpo threw himself into the net. Unfortunately, he only threw himself in. The ball did not follow him into the goal, and a good pass from Bergwijn was wasted. Chapter 645. To be honest, the Dutch team is already quite indifferent now, as the time to cry had already passed in the locker room during halftime. So, with most of the pressure lifted, the Tulips felt a sense of growing courage. If the match lasted 180 minutes, they might pull off a miraculous comeback. Unfortunately, this is just a single match of 90 minutes, and they are 4 goals behind. In fact, the Dutch team performed quite well today. At least in terms of offensive opportunities, they were better than France and Morocco. However, at the end of the day, the players on the field are all real people, not like the characters you can control in a game who only have a stamina bar and no emotional fluctuations. Therefore, during the first half, when England led 3-0 against the Netherlands, most of the players in the Orange Army had already collapsed. Counterattack, comeback, dreams have it all. Of course, this is also the reason why the French team conceded 4 goals. The players' psychological defenses had been shattered, and they couldn't organize a decent counterattack. On top of that, England, led by the formidable Chen Chen, suddenly launched a massive offensive. Who could withstand that?